can hold me back.
Please hold. Your call is very important to us. All operators are busy at this time.
Welcome to Playday 13 for 6 Masters. Only one more Playday to come tomorrow, and then that's all it is. So the penultimate round is here, Dev, as we get stuck into, for some teams, their last night. For others, their second last night.
Yeah, we have really gotten to an exciting part of the season. We've been doing the maths, figuring out who's going to make playoffs and who's going to redeem their pride. It's been a wild ride so far in the 6 Masters, and every day just keeps getting better and better.
Certainly does. We've got an amazing amount of games to be played tonight, an amazing amount of scenarios for how top 4 is going to finish. Of course, we've got the socials down below to keep up to date with all of that information, and you guys at home can also let us know how you think tonight's games are going to play out tonight. Dev, me and you have spent probably a good part, 45 minutes prior to this show, going over calculations for top 4. The stakes are high, and that is going to be the talking point for the majority of tonight.
Very much so. The standings still have a lot of ability to shift, and I think that's one of the main things to talk about here. Those top 4 positions do head to the playoffs later on, but of course, which 4 teams will end up in those top 4 spots? There's still a little bit of movement there. Particularly, we're talking about Pittsburgh Knights, who are playing tonight against Wildcard, Team Ferox, and also LFO down there. All of those teams definitely have the opportunity to make it into the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly right. And if we go sort of from top to bottom, I guess the top 3 are in. We've calculated that. So there's no real issues for Sinister tonight. They've got the tiebreakers. They've got everything that they need in the off chance that teams do sort of catch up to them and they don't get a result tonight against Ferox. Looking at Pittsburgh Knights, though, we've pretty much got it to a T. They need a map win tonight. No ifs, ands, or buts. At least one. And then that kind of opens up a few possibilities for them. But if they get nothing tonight, Dev, they're pretty much done. They're shut out.
Yeah, that's it. So there's high stakes for Pittsburgh Knights and teams further down the lineup. Ferox are also playing tonight. LFO in there. As soon as Knights win one map, LFO cannot make it because the maximum number of points that LFO could get will only draw them with Knights, and that they will lose to head-to-head. So there's still an opportunity here for LFO, Ferox, and Knights. For Knights, it's really about just winning that game. Hopefully 2 against Wildcard. It's a tall order, but I think there's still some opportunity there for them.
Yeah, and quickly before we get to the schedule, LFO, they're not playing tonight, but they will be playing tomorrow night. And right now, they have got their wildcard jerseys on because they need to make sure that Pittsburgh Knights get nothing tonight. Provided that Knights get no map wins tonight, LFO then have to 2-0 Ferox tomorrow night, and that could still see that team into the playoffs. So a lot on the line for really those three teams, but the two, of course, that are going to be playing tonight, Knights and Ferox. We'll go and have a look at the schedule, though, now for the matches that we will be showing you tonight. First up will be Team Ferox versus Sinister. And it gets even more crazy here, because even if Ferox sort of get one or two maps, it doesn't secure them anything, because then they still have got to get the job done tomorrow against LFO.
Yeah, very much so. So Ferox are the team that has, I think in theory, the best chance of actually making it to the playoffs out of those three that we're talking about, Knights, LFO, and Ferox. Despite sitting down there in 5th, Ferox still have tonight's game, and as you mentioned, tomorrow against LFO. So there's more opportunities for them to get points over some of those other teams. So Ferox really need to get this over Sinister, and as well for Knights, it's a do-or-die scenario against Wildcard later.
Yeah, we spoke a little bit about Knights. They'll be our second matchup tonight against Wildcard. As you said, do or die. They have to find a map. If they can find two, they would then be the first team this season of Six Masters to do so against Wildcard, and that would dramatically increase their chances of making top 4. But to round it back, Ferox and Sinister, that will be our first matchup tonight. All eyes on this one, of course. And Team Ferox currently having, as you said, the best chance really of the lot to make top 4. They've got the most remaining maps to be played. To summarize it, the 4 maps remaining tonight and tomorrow night, if they win 3 of them, that's it. They will go in. So a lot of the fate in their hands. We've also summarized that 2 map wins is also likely to get them the job done. And if we want to go all the way, Dev, a 3-way tiebreaker is also a possibility, which of course they would require 1 map win. And that would actually have to be tomorrow against LFO.
That's it. So no matter what happens tonight, Ferox has to at least win 1 map tomorrow. But of course, tonight they still have an opportunity to, as you say, take their fate into their own hands against Sinister. And now talking about Sinister for a minute, these guys have had such an amazing season. I think this is safe to say Sinister's best ever season in a Pro League or Six Masters that we have ever seen in the Oceanic region. There's still a possibility here for Sinister to get a top 2 finish, and they have been on an absolute tear ever since the last half, the previous half of Season 11 of the Pro League, coming into this season as well. 8 wins and 4 losses. These guys have just been topping it off.
Yeah, and we spoke to Vincia just a bit before the game, not for too long, but we actually filled him into but to his surprise that they have qualified, that they can't be knocked out. There was actually a bit of thoughts there that they maybe hadn't quite done enough, but maybe that just relieves a bit of pressure maybe that they may have had coming into tonight. Of course, it is their final play day for this season of Six Masters. Now to at least know going into this that they are going to make top 3, or at the very least top 4 at a minimum, it definitely means that you can play with a bit more freedom tonight.
There's a lot of pressure off for Sinister, that's for sure. And after we've seen great things from them so far in this season, one in particular comes to mind. It was a match on Clubhouse. It was 7-7 overtime match point for Sinister. And one of the players was down. Derpo runs outside the thermite breacher's CCTV with the stim pistol to revive his teammate, and ended up clutching that round for the map. We've seen some crazy stuff from Sinister, and that goes to show what a show tonight will be.
We're going to get further into this match between Ferox and Sinister now with the map vetoes. My prediction, Consulate and Cafe, I think maybe the bans. I always love to have a guess and have a shot, Dev. Coming into this series, Consulate has been an instant ban for Sinister all season long. 5 out of 6 weeks they've banned it. I'm sure they won't miss this one.
Yeah. Can roll it through. Both of these teams do have some overlap in some of the maps that they're good at. Let's go and roll them on. Consulate, no surprise there from Sinister, as you said, 5 out of 6 times. Not quite on the money with the border ban, though, from Ferox. And that's actually funny. Both of these teams have recently won border matches against Elevate, no less. So there is some strength from both teams there. And it's funny to me that Ferox is the one to ban it out, because they haven't actually lost a border in a very, very long time. And that recent result was Elevate 7-4, whereas Sinister only beat Elevate 8-6. So I'm actually feeling like Ferox might have on paper been stronger on border, but despite that, for some reason, they don't want to take us there.
Yeah, it's interesting because we haven't really seen border a whole lot this season either. It hasn't been prominent. At times, it has been banned out, but not picked too often. I had Cafe as my ban just based on sort of the pick rate of Sinister, since it's been half of their picks this season. So I thought maybe from Ferox's point of view, you wanted to sort of take away a map that Sinister are going to be comfortable on. Because of that, changes though now. I wouldn't be surprised if we get like Cafe Clubhouse, which have been the two very prominent maps.
The Six Masters Max, Cafe
Yeah.
and Clubhouse. Let's have a look at the picks. I wouldn't be surprised to see them out. Okay, some left field stuff. Sinister is going to go with Villa, a map that's actually quite strong. I've got a record here that's 4-0 for them, but that does go into last season of Pro League. In fact, last time these two teams played each other, they played on Villa and Cafe. Cafe went on scene, but Villa and Sinister took that 7-5. That was back in the Pro League. Sinister played it all 3 of their final weeks in the Pro League, won all 3. More recently, they beat Okami 7-5, and Okami's a pretty good Villa team, so I like this pick from Sinister. And on the flip side for Ferox, really not a lot of Villa play. The last time was in fact against Sinister back in the Pro League, and of course they lost that. So there's definitely, I think, a good strong pick from Sinister. They're definitely going to be in advantage going into Villa. As for Clubhouse, we've seen mixed results from both teams, so I'm actually not sure how to commit either way for that one, Xenox.
No, I agree, especially with Clubhouse, but then it brings me back to why Cafe wasn't picked, really. We've seen Ferox actually ban out Cafe a few times this season. They haven't played it. Or, I will repeat, Ferox have not played Cafe this season of Six Masters, where Sinister have picked it 3 out of 6 times. For the most part, it's been a bit mixed results, but it's still a map that they're comfortable on. And while they do take the Villa surprise package, I still think Cafe could have been a map that Sinister could have felt comfortable on against Ferox. To then go to Clubhouse, where I think it's a bit 50-50 up in the air. I do feel as if the Villa pick is going to suit Sinister more than, say, Clubhouse suiting Ferox. I don't sense that home field advantage there for Ferox. Where it's going into Villa, it's all kind of just been thrown up in the air now. I'm not sure how ready Ferox would have been for this pick. They might have been planning for something like, say, a Cafe, depending on the fact that they knew they were going to ban out Border.
Yeah, and that may very well be the reason why we saw Sinister get rid of Cafe, or rather not pick Cafe and just go straight for Villa. It is that unusual pick, a little bit more unexpected, something that Ferox is less likely going to be able to read into. And that means how these teams work is they always figure out, okay, what maps will we be scrimming this week? What maps do we expect to see in our game? They prioritize those ones. And it's totally possible here that Sinister going with Villa, a bit of a curveball, it's going to catch Ferox off guard if they haven't been scrimming that quite so rigorously. So I do like that pick, and I definitely think it could lend Sinister the upper hand.
Well, I definitely now, after seeing those map picks, think Sinister have got an advantage. We'll hear what you guys at home think through the poll vote and see if you agree with that. 75% do, in fact, agree with that. But I think now, looking at those map picks, because I'm imagining this poll vote probably was done prior to the map picks, I would even say it could even be higher than 75%. Just sort of going back to that, Dev, where I feel like the Villa going to catch Ferox off guard. The Clubhouse, don't sense much of an advantage for Ferox there. So for Ferox, though, they don't have to win tonight. We will reiterate that. They don't have to really even get a map tonight, and their chances of still making top 4 are strong. For Sinister, they're already in the top 4. So I wonder if those external sort of outages, do they play a difference here in how this series is going to play out, though, as well?
Yeah, I totally agree with you that Sinister should be favored as they are in the poll vote, but Ferox, let's not count them out. Remember that they had an incredibly tense, close series where they lost both maps to Wildcard. However, one of those was an 8-7, and the other one, in fact, was on Clubhouse and was only a 7-5 loss. So those are still pretty close margins we're talking about. Ferox had have their mishaps here and there. They lost a map tonight, one to Okami, but they also beat Okami on one map as well, which is the same result that Sinister had against them. So while Sinister are in top form right now, and the map veto does look to favor them, I wouldn't be surprised to see Ferox come away with one map. Probably going to be Clubhouse if it is either, but there's also the possibility that Ferox had been practicing Villa and had been prepping for it, and that we could see something unusual from them that could also tip the balance.
I'll say, just actually, you mentioned they're in top form. I was like, where do you sort of draw the line here? You could easily sit here and say they've won 6 of their last 7. You could also say they've won 8 of their last 10. So which one's sort of better? I think 8 out of your last 10 is amazing. So what that insinuates is going all the way back to week 1 is when they actually dropped 2 in a row to Wildcard, of course, the best performing team this season. Sinister are probably itching with this recent form to say, hey, we've been playing really, really well. A lot of talk's been about Wildcard, but come playoffs time, we could easily say it's been a long time between drinks. We've maybe caught up a bit here.
Yeah, and look, Xenox, if you want to go even one further than that 8 out of your last 10, Sinister have won 15 out of their last 20 maps going back to March because they went flawless on the second split of Season 11 of Pro League, which I think is often overlooked by people. Sinister were undefeated. After Invitational was over, they came back into the local online league. They didn't lose a map. That includes a 2-0 over Ferox. So Sinister are absolutely in top form, not just over the last week or two, but over the last 2-3 months. These guys have been on top of their game, on the rise, and they're gunning for that top 2 spot.
They are definitely gunning for the top 2 spot, but Ferox are gunning for a top 4 spot. Will they be stopped in their tracks, at least momentarily, or can they find an advantageous avenue forward in Villa to start things off in our first series of Play Day 13 of 14? We're coming to an end here.
Everything's coming to a close, Xenox, and well, this is Sinister's last match of the entire season. An opportunity for them to really establish themselves at the top. They do need to take maps here, both of them preferably to cement themselves in that second place. Ferox, huge stakes on their side as well. Currently sitting in 5th, but they can jump over Knights and join the playoffs, but they need to win as many maps of their remaining 4 as possible. It's tonight against Sinister that everything will begin. Let's jump into this ban phase.
Yeah, have fun. Good luck. And as we head into Villa and we start tonight off, I'm just absolutely got to say it's been a wild ride this season of Six Masters Dev. We've had it all, really. Kango, of course, picked up their first map win last night, which was outstanding. But it also, you look, Elevate, a bit of a disappointment, right? We've had everything. And now it's a matter of the fact that a team like LFO, who played, through the, the play-ins, can they still make top 4? A team like Ferox, new banner, new organization, chance for them to make top 4. And a couple of the big dogs have not quite gone as well as we thought this season. It's had it all.
Yeah, there's been a lot of variety. There's been a lot of upsets, a lot of opportunities here. And we've seen them capitalized upon quite fully by these up-and-coming teams like Sinister and teams like, pardon me, I meant LFO, and teams like Ferox as well. These guys are absolutely giving it their all and showing strong competition. But to go over this ban phase quickly, I'll talk about the more typical bans first, get them out of the way. So Thatcher, highly common ban on the attacking side, really removing that utility remover, if you will. Thatcher is just so good. It's just a little blanket, safety blanket you put down over the site or some area, and it just removes all gadgets, whether it's bandit batteries, mute jammers, mozzies, pests. It's just so universal. So really does force the attackers to get a little bit more creative, getting rid of that. And as for the defensive side, getting rid of the Echo and the Mirror, very staple bans as well. Some really strong information gathering. And I just want to talk about this IQ for a minute. This is the most unusual of all of these bans coming out from Ferox, no less. IQ, there are not many other operators that do what IQ does. Locating gadgets, specifically gadgets that are hard to find, things like Echo drones. Now, he's been banned. That's a smart reply from Sinister to get rid of that with the IQ off the table. But also your Black Eyes from Valkyrie, Kaid Electroclaws that Todd's bringing here. All of this utility that IQ could usually be finding. And on top of that, you've got great fraggers like Vincere from Sinister who main those operators. I really like this move from Ferox, just throwing a little bit of a curveball into the mix on Sinister's own map.
Yeah, and it does feel more like Sinister's own map. We've spoken at lengths, of course, for the map picks and going over to Clubhouse. I don't sense that Ferox are going to feel as comfortable as Sinister probably feel here on Villa. Obviously, they are going to be defending first here, Ferox, and that may be actually pretty decent for them. And just sort of see what Sinister's up to here. What's their tricks that they want to bring over to Villa? They picked it for a reason, and clearly they're ready for whatever they're going to throw at Ferox. The question is Ferox ready for this? How much have they been scrimming Villa? They haven't really played it this season.
Well, just judging by the setup from Ferox, I'm actually impressed, and I have a feeling that these guys have, in fact, been practicing quite substantially. They've got a fairly unusual hold. You'll notice where Sushi is sitting there in Tarps or Memorial, completely opened up all angles, not only into the site, but also into the hallway. You have an ADS placed as well in the little hideaway cobby that Vincere is quite near at the moment. That allows Ferox to really bunker down in that spot, but also expose a lot of places that Sinister may well want to plant inside dining. That's the A bomb site. And on top of that, Ferox, a heavy extension across towards the reading side with a couple of reinforcements and rotation holes, really just expands this map control for Ferox and forces Sinister to work a lot harder to get that horizontal pressure.
Villa is one of those maps where there is a lot more of that horizontal play. Obviously, vertical is still going to be important too, but compared to some other maps, it's not quite as big, depending obviously on the site as well. It's going to be played out. As I mentioned that, Nico just opening up here on the second floor, looking down at the first floor, and this is where that vertical control also pays dividends. If you can find those picks, but also you have to be wary of those C4s. Minute 25 seconds. And so far, I've got to say for Ferox, this is the ideal start. You haven't lost anyone early. Not a lot really gained for Sinister. A bit of second floor control, but nothing really on that first floor.
Yeah, I want to attribute this to Ferox right here. They did completely just give up the top floor to Sinister and enable them to get that vertical control. But the positions Ferox are playing are fairly not vulnerable to that that top floor presence. For example, that Roman side reading where Sushi is, these places aren't as exposed to the top floor. Same with Todd. And I really like the way Ferox is playing around that. Sinister took that top floor control. They opened the holes, but they haven't been able to make any progress to it at all so far. And Ferox are also the ones to find the first pick. Maybe Nico here can do a bit of damage. There is an eventual trade back, but 40 seconds left. Sinister 4 versus 4 with 2 players already lit up.
30 seconds remaining, as you mentioned, 4 versus 4. Bit of control over to this B bomb site though from Miloska. Does have the diffuser, may go for a door plant. Just tries to clear any utility here. Walks in, actually pushes straight in. Not going to go for the plant just yet. Deptra, does he catch him off guard here? He does eventually, but it took a bit of time. It was actually Vincia that was walking through. Nico taking a lot of damage as well onto this site. Only one left, and it is Miloska in a 1 versus 3. Does have the diffuser in hand, elected not to plant, and now has no time. Face plants the wall, and Ferox take the first round.
Slow and steady and patient wins the race for Ferox there. They just had a good setup. They let Sinister take what they wanted, and then Ferox just waited, let things whittle away. Shade was the one to find the first pick. He was the dock roaming in reading with that heavy reinforcement and rotate hole setup. A lot of angles to expose any positions that Sinister wanted to push through. Eventually, Sinister, I think, a bit bewildered by their strategy from Ferox. They realized, okay, we have top floor, so first step, all right, let's just go top floor and see if we can find any picks through the floor. Now, lucky no one got C4'd. Ferox's C4 play did miss, but Sinister was also completely ineffective from that top floor position. They checked a lot of the common places on site that Ferox maybe would usually be sitting, and no one was in those positions, so Sinister wasn't able to get that numbers advantage and try to execute onto the site. By the time Sinister adapted their strategies and tried to just push up from pantry, Ferox was ready. There was no real time for Sinister to work with, and once Sinister did enter the bomb site, there were so many ways that Ferox could disrupt them and take them out by these pre-opened angles that Ferox had created. And I really like that strategy from them. Good start on Sinister's map pick.
Of course, it does have to be said that for Ferox, even if they 2-0 Sinister tonight, even if they get a map and draw this series, a lot of their work has to be done tomorrow against LFO, or at least find a map pick there. I think it's fair to say in terms of just recent performances, and honestly, Ferox has been a team I think many have underrated this season, that they would be going into tomorrow night favored to even win that series, let alone take a map. We've seen a lot of the performances from Ferox this season have gone down to the wire. They had a 7-8 against Wildcard, almost taking a map against them, and a 7-8 against Akami. Imagine if those two have flipped the other way, Dev. Ferox would actually have already qualled, probably.
Yeah, it's true. Ferox on paper, you look at some of the results and you think, oh, you know, they dropped a map to Knights, they've dropped 2 maps to Wildcard, they dropped a map to Akami Elevate, but they've also had huge accomplishments. As you mentioned, getting maps on those top teams, and Sinister is one of those top teams. If Ferox can take a map here, which I wouldn't be surprised with how they're playing thus far, well, really just demonstrates that, as you said, perhaps Ferox have been a bit underrated this season.
Minutes remaining. For Ferox, it's vital that they continue to find some momentum here on Villa. 3-3 half would be good. So if you can get to 4, though, that'd be great going into their attacking half. Sure, guy does find the opening frag onto Shade on the gridlock. Just in the
Attackers have located
chance
a
that there's
bomb.
any roamers pushing in behind them as they elect to push onto site. Minute 40 seconds. Good start here for Sinister in this second round. It is their map pick. You're not going to want to lose this one.
Now remember, Sinister did play this map against Okami earlier in the season, and they did a very similar attack onto this aviator bomb site. Vertical pressure from below. Nico very confident to do this on the sledge. Couple of pre-placed nades, but no information means that he doesn't get the kill based on that one. Once again, Ferox not trying to contest vertically at all. In fact, for the most part, happy to just let Sinister peek on, but that's not so good now for Ferox. And Sushi goes down, and that lends Sinister a further number advantage in a 5 versus 3.
Almost the opposite of the last round. Last round, they didn't lose any picks. At least not until that final minute. And even then, they had so much more control, better control. Nico is low, very low. And Official Guy does go down. Never mind, he won the fight against Warden. You can see his health just sort of falling away at the wayside, but he stayed alive.
Nice.
Moroska's going to get the plant. Pod will breathe on Fisher Guy. He only had such a small amount of health remaining. Watches the window, but he loses another teammate. Now it's a 1 versus 4. Plant down. Sinister, you think from here will win the round. Pod, though, has to have a crack and see what can happen, but Dev, I don't think his chances here are very high.
Low HP. Position revealed. Attempted to wide peek that. Drone right on him as well, which means they have full information on which side he's coming from. Angles opened onto the site. Trying to pre-fire these angles, but he gets shot straight back from the Zafir. No, it was in fact Nico who managed to find that one. And there you go. Sinister do make a reply. They regain their footing here and put Ferox back in their place.
At least one round in, I guess, that they've now put them in their place. It's 1-1, it's tied. I mean, Ferox have got a long way to go here. Literally as well, considering they've got the most games still to play out of every team here at Six Masters. Of course, they're going to be playing tomorrow night. For Sinister, this is their final play day. This is their final series, and they're already in the top 4. And it almost feels like a glorified scrim for them because there's nothing to lose, but not a whole lot to gain either. They can't get first. That's out of the question. At best, they could get second. And is second versus third really that much of a difference, Dev?
Yeah, it's a good point. That said, when we were talking to Vinny before this match started, he definitely seemed relaxed. He didn't feel like there was a lot of pressure on him, but at the same time, he was saying, oh, you know, we're going for the win here. Like, we're not going to be happy. If Sinister 0-2 this game, if they lose both maps to Ferox, or even if they lose one map, Sinister are going to walk away thinking, what went wrong? We wanted to win this. No, we're not going to be saving any strats. Vinny actually said that. We're not trying to hide anything for playoffs. And I actually really admire that mentality. Practice makes perfect. And if you are practicing excellence in every single game, then you are going to have a winning mentality. And that's exactly what Sinister bring to the table this season.
5 seconds to go.
Definitely agree with that. And it also then means they're aiming to, say, keep that really decent streak of games won alive. And as you said, 15 out of 20, make it 17 out of 22 if possible. And take that form and momentum going into the playoffs is probably better than having to, say, save a strat or two. Most of these teams know each other pretty well, and you've got all of the VODs that are accessible. There's not too much to really hide. Play your best, aim to win, and as you said, have that team-winning mentality that is then quite infectious.
Ferox, fairly substantial roam here from Deptra. Remember that his Valkyrie black eye cameras somewhat more difficult to find with the IQ band. He'll roam below. He's a great operator for getting that C4 through the floor. And in fact, Sushi backing him up from reading finds Derp nice and early. And there's Deptra as well to find one. Sushi about to enter a second engagement here, but Milo seems very much aware of this. Nico as well pushing up from another angle. Vinceria's watching the flank of Milo, but of course, Milo is to be careful if he's aggressing on solo. No opportunity for a refrag. Drones come out. Vinny looking to make a play.
Vinny and Nico, they're cautiously moving around here. Not with a lot of pace and certainly not with a lot of confidence. Vince just getting droned out here. I believe this is Deptra, and it is, and he is going to be eliminated. I'm not sure if Deptra actually saw the drone. Otherwise, you'd think he would have hastily moved away. So at least there's one back for Sinister to get back into this round. 4 versus 3 still in favor of Ferox. Minute 20 seconds remaining. A bit topsy-turvy right now for Sinister, but they can definitely bring it back. The time is on their side.
And Sushi's back on the objective, nice and safe. Just trying to make the most of that man advantage. Warden in a fairly aggressive position. Vinny trying to clear out these spots at the back of Astro. Can push up Astro stairs, but of course this barbed wire and that Valkyrie, or rather default camera, will make it very difficult to do so. He's going to get pretty zealous on it though. The C4 finds nothing. 40 seconds left. Sinister only just now taking bathroom, and that's when Warden, who's playing in an aggressive position, could punish them. They do have to be careful here.
There is at least a few different avenues, although Milos is going to go down with the diffuser. Trades will ring out though as Nico gets Warden, but 20 seconds remaining, diffuser on the floor. It's not ideal situation for Sinister. And as Shade finds another kill, Nico's now the solo as he pushes into Astro. He can't find that initial pre-fry. If he had found it, he would have made a 1v1. With 9 seconds remaining, he can't get the tag, and he can't get the round win. Ferox go back in front 2-1.
And Xenox, that really goes to show that Ferox, being the initiators here, are absolutely helping out their chances at winning this. And they're not only getting the early engagements and winning those early engagements. For example, I believe it was Shade playing the Goyo last round, getting nice and aggressive in through reading, found that first pick onto Dirtbay. Not only is it finding these initial engagements and winning them, but also the way that Ferox are moving around that. Of course, Deptra was eventually refragged, but the other player, the Goyo, did manage to get back onto the objective and play fully patiently, not allow Sinister to get that refrag. Sinister weren't quite tight enough on each other to get it immediately, so they did push on later through the round. And when it's a rush to take that master control, retake those, really those important areas where you need to get into nice and early in the round, when Sinister's doing that late because they've been focusing on this roam clear, then it means they get a little bit lax, a little bit lazy. And Ferox, when they had Warden sitting aggressively in bathroom, well, that's going to net him a kill. And of course, in a 4 versus 3, when Ferox initiate those engagements, even if it's a trade fest from there on out, 1 for 1 for 1, Ferox are always going to end up with the numbers advantage and win the round.
You brought out the Black Eye comment earlier as well. With the IQ ban, Deptra's having a field day. Not only that, but even the default cameras are being kept up just that little bit longer. It makes it so much harder for the Sinister. So this has been marvelous for Ferox. That, of course, they were the ones who banned out the IQ. They get to defend first. They don't have to deal with it. They don't have to worry about it. They can capitalize on it. Whether Sinister would have been prepared for that. They would have said, okay, well, we're going to go to Ferox. But Ferox said, okay, but we ban out IQ. We've got this strat. We know what we're doing here. They had maybe something ready to go if they were going to take into Villa. So you mentioned it before. It seems like Ferox have done their homework here.
That said, we didn't mention the 6-pick from Fisher Guy onto that Montang. It was not seen by Ferox, but surely before long they will realize it. There's a bit of utility from the Ferox guys to counter this, namely those smokes from Sushi. It's going to be super essential. Also, don't underestimate these barricades that they've placed around landing to just slow down this trophy push. It forces Sinister to break them down, which then gives Ferox that sound cue. Now Warden completely aware that the push is coming from that north side of the map.
2 minutes remaining. From Sinister, we've seen a bit of vertical control being their priority so far in their attacks. Monty for Fisher does spot one out. It does give you that information almost like a walking camera. Minute 40 though, and the problem with when you're running something like Monty is you can slow down your own attack at times.
Ooh, Warden though to go down first up. Then he does find that first one. There is that eventual trade from Todd, I believe, playing at 19. Fisher just trying to lock out this aviator room, prevent anyone from pushing. Todd taken so low though from those engagements. And now there's a rotate here from Sinister to try to take that study side. Nico as well below, but he's just throwing a blind nade. There's no player there for him to get. Oscar trying to push on from this 90 window, open some long angles. This is a nice touch here from Sinister, but of course, numbers are even and time's ticking away.
Todd is low though. So even though it's a 4 versus 4, Todd is just a hair's breadth away from being eliminated. 45 seconds though. You get to the outer reaches of the bomb site, but then pushing in is where it can be quite difficult, even with the Monty and for Fisher guy. Still window control in hand as well for Sinister. Oh, does spot it a little bit late though from Derpaint from finding that frag. It would have been oh so vital with only 25 seconds remaining. They are only just now starting to get a bit of control inside of the room. Fisher has to find time to go and get the plant down, which is what he's electing to do now. Drops the shield, puts the plant down, 2 seconds. Does he get denied? No, he doesn't. It is going to be successful. Nico even gets Todd, and it's going oh so wrong now for Ferox. This is the gas canisters are going to be thrown out. Is it too little too late? She finds Miloska, 2 versus 3.
With that Montaigne still up and alive, it just gives Sinister so much ability here to have information gathering and also pressure at the same time. He may be low. Oh, there's a good one for Deptra. Suddenly, it's a 2v2. It may well come down to Fisher guy to have an impact here. He's low. Deptra gets the team kill. And Nico to close that round. Ferox, it was a valiant effort, but Sinister in the last few moments managed to execute a successful plant and then hold it in the post.
Man, what is it with us on team kills? We had a couple last week, and we've got another one here.
Oh, that was so winnable. If he didn't team kill, so winnable.
It was. It really was. And I think maybe that Ferox might have been surprised with how winnable that actually was. It's always scary when the Montaigne is just watching you, and it's like, at what point is he going to go on the offense? Dining and kitchen, first floor for Ferox, 2-2. With 2 more rounds in the half, I don't think Ferox would be too displeased with how this has played out so far.
No, and to be fair, the only attack Sinister has won so far are on that Aviator Games Room bomb site, and of course now we rotate back here for Ferox once again. A couple of maneuvers in the operator lineup. No longer Shade is on that dock. He switched it out for a castle, which we didn't see on the previous defense of Kitchen Dining. That said, Sinister are the ones who picked this map. Ferox came out of the gate with a nice little strategy here, but it looks like they're completely changing tack, fully reinforcing those walls downstairs instead of the open strategy like they did previously. In fact, the opposite actually mentality from Ferox. Previously, they completely sacrificed the top floor, let Sinister take it, and they roamed over to the reading side. Now it's the exact opposite strategy here. Heavy hold upstairs. Multiple players, a lot of utility, castle barricades, rotation between master and statuary. Even Todd here with the deployable shield to hold on that door as well. A complete change of tack here from Ferox.
A lot of that is, you're able to do that because of the hatch in the bedroom. You can just drop down back to that first floor if things get a bit messy on that second floor. Very similar sort of strategy, I guess, to what you'd see on like Cafe with bar and cocktail. The same thought process is, I guess, put into it. And how you want to hold it and play it, how much pressure you want to do. The problem is I feel like you get less sight lines as you would on, say, bar and cocktail, and it's not quite as straightforward. We'll see how it plays out. Warden's going to sit there on that second floor for now. But you did make a good point that they didn't elect to do the strategy in that first round. They went for a more horizontal approach on that first floor, made it very difficult for Sinister to sort of push in onto the first floor. They gave them second floor, and because they were so spread out, it was so difficult for them to find shots through the floorboard. But we'll see how this plays out. Don't be surprised if you see 4 kills. Don't be surprised if they just walk straight in, get that opening frag, and maybe go for a very quick plant. Fisher guy's already going to stick at 3 versus 4, make it 2 versus 4. Ferox have just been surprised. They had no idea what just hit them. Quick rush and a quick plant.
What is this from Sinister? Now another post plant. Poor Sushi, what you gonna do, mate? There's a Montaigne harassing you. You can't even find one. And the change of tack from Ferox is completely read into by Sinister. Okay, you guys aren't going to hold reading. We're just going to yeet right on through there, take the bomb site. You guys try and take it back. We're just going to stick a shield in your face.
You just love to see it. It's like playbook versus playbook. We're going to try this, and as soon as Sinister, as you said, saw that no one was holding reading, they're like, well, we can now do this. The depth of these two teams that are sort of coming out is so intriguing. One more round in this half. The Ferox now played a bit more close to home, a bit more of a turtle style here on Trophy and Stat. which they did win the last time they did have this bomb site. I think you definitely now look back as after that last round and say, okay, we tried something a bit more ambitious. Let's try and keep it a bit simpler here on this final defense.
Yeah, and while I was saying, I don't know, remarking on the way that Ferox changed their strategy there, it proved to be to their detriment because, as I mentioned, Ferox completely abandoned that reading side. Sinister take advantage. They get that early control. And while Sinister actually planted, they took from kitchen side and from China, which the roof above that is actually breachable. If you open holes in statuary floor, what's now the A-bomb site, and in the bathroom, if Ferox had done that, they could have denied those entries from Sinister. But I think it was the fact that Sinister hit so hard and so fast that Ferox didn't have the read in time to set that up and to be watching those angles. They weren't able to deny the plan, and Sinister, I mean, it was just a blitz of a moment for them, really. So Sinister, not only good reads, but the chemistry to get it done fast enough that Ferox can't react, and that puts them in a really strong position. Now, of course, we have Ferox once again rotating bomb sites, not electing to retry either of their two strategies they've demonstrated on kitchen and just going straight for statuary once again. And of course, this is the only remaining bomb site that Ferox is actually undefeated on so far in this map. But we've seen Sinister upset that momentum before, and it could well be the case.
Does seem vital, though, that Ferox tie it up at the half. The momentum has now shifted to Sinister's side, winning 3 of the last 4 rounds after Ferox won the opening round. The Monty from Fisher Guy has so far paid dividends. 2 minutes. And Sinister looking a lot more comfortable here, a lot more decisive with their play and their actions. They look like they are the team on top, and Ferox is sort of then just responding to what Sinister are doing.
Very good initiative here. Of course, we have once again those roamers downstairs from Ferox. If you recall last time, Ferox found 2 opening picks thanks to these roamers downstairs, but I think Sinister is more aware of them this time. That's why Nico's opening up these angles, looking down into reading. He's going to spot out the Goyo. Sushi taken down, finished off by Fisho. A great job there. It's really a bit of a hammer and anvil maneuver. You've got Fisho trying to push these players around straight into the anvil. That is the angles the rest of Sinister are holding. And that's a nice early frag from Sinister, already turning the tides from the last time Ferox won this. And it puts Sinister in a much stronger position to end this half 4-2.
Not a lot of control for Ferox around that red stairs. Shade's holding close by, but Sinister have got a lot of avenues that they can now push up here. 1 minute remaining. And it's time to send in the drone, which is Fisher Guy. As he pushes through landing, he's going to find the guy behind that shield. There's a trade out 1-for-1 though, so not too much really going to come from that. Still favoring Sinister here. 40 seconds remaining. They've done really well. Once they get onto site, they've been able to not only get the plant down, but find the frags as well.
What I will say is Ferox have a really strong setup here, especially around landing and trophy with those Goyo shields and deployable shields in conjunction. And Vinny's now locked out here. The Kaid goes aggressive, and now Vinny's going to capitalize upon that one. That's full site control. That said, Todd finds one on the refrag. Moloska as he enters. 3 versus 2 now in this plant scenario. Sinister have successfully planted every attack round that they've won so far, but one's good for 3, and he closes it out. And Ferox regain their composure and end the half at an even 3 rounds apiece.
Well, it's all in the numbers, Dev. 3-3 and a 3K from Warden to clutch it for Ferox and get them to this halfway mark, tied up at 3 all. And in the end, I think a fair assumption for how this game has, or this series and this match has played out thus far. Sinister were looking on top though. And they had the momentum. Warden cuts it short. Now we switch sides, and it's going to be Ferox on the attack. And do they gain a bit of momentum from that? Now going into their attacking side. We'll see how it plays out as we head over to Aviator and Games first up on the defense for Sinister.
Really did come down to Warden. Not just the fact that he got 3 kills, but it was a really well-executed flank. Perfect for what Ferox needed. Sinister, I didn't actually see how Warden got there. I was a bit surprised as soon as I saw him at the master door, but I have to assume it was a push up through the bathroom from Astro's side all the way around. And I mean, taking initiative like that, that's the kind of play we like to expect from Warden. He had a huge series, if you recall, in one of the earlier Six Masters playdays against Wildcard. It was really Warden versus Ethan. He's definitely a player to watch out for here. And on the attacking side, he'll jump onto the Hibana, probably going to be playing the most passive out of his team. But we do have a fairly aggressive lineup otherwise, with a lot of explosives from Deptra, Sushi, and Todd, as well as, of course, that X factor of the Ying from Shade. We know how effective that can be, how effective it was against Kanga in one of Ferox's previous playdays. But are Sinister ready for it?
Attackers drop the diffuser.
You'd have to suspect that Sinister are ready for quite a few things on Villa, considering it is their map pick. They definitely have been playing like, you know, that they're ready for anything that Ferox is throwing out. But at the same time, I also get the feeling that Ferox, despite the fact that they haven't played Villa this season of Six Masters, they have looked very confident. They have looked ready for anything as well. You know, on their massively failed attempt of kitchen dining earlier, where they went on the second floor instead, at least it shows their ambition and their thought process was good. The execution just sort of lacked for them.
Yeah, I definitely think this is a much more competitive match than we expected. Coming into this, you and I were talking 75% on the poll vote, and you were saying, well, maybe that doesn't actually reflect how advantaged Sinister here coming into this. But Ferox have done a great job at holding their ground thus far, and of course on that X Factor map pick, there's a good opening pick there for Warden. And onto the Warden, of course, it had to be. And that is Fisher Guy's counter, that reply, that answer to the Ying eliminated, which will have it really increase the opportunity for Shade to be even more impactful.
I can't remember who it was, but I think it might have been Raven saying he really hoped he'd get the Warden, killing Warden at some point. Well, we got it here. At least if it was for you, Raven, there you go. But 1:25 seconds remaining. Ferox, great opening attack here. And as you said, Shade now with those Candelas should have free roam going into the bomb sites. The Warden's not going to be able to counter that. And this is a great opportunity for Ferox to take the lead once again. And I do remind everyone that Ferox have probably been slightly underrated this season. It shouldn't be too much of a surprise that they're able to take on a team like Sinister and really play them close to their to the chest here. Warden finds a second one. 5-3, big opportunity now.
Is eventually refragged, but there's once again a reply there. Deptra good to cover. Molosca, though, jumping into the fray as well. Another C4 there comes out for Nico. 2 versus 2 now. Ferox may well have this bomb site.
Oh my
That's such
God,
a well-timed peek from Molosca. And the 2 versus 2 is closed out by Sinister there. Getting themselves back into this.
What just happened? I was taking a sip of water. It was 5-3. Next thing I know, it's round 1 to Sinister. You blink and you miss it sometimes, and in this case, that is definitely how it played out. You've got to be on your game at all points, at all times, Dev, if you're playing a team like Sinister. The C4 kill was crucial there as well. Ferox, great start, thanks to Warden, finds those opening picks, but the rest of the team just capitulating when the execution needed to be paramount.
Just to recap that, Warden found those first 2 picks, and then it was a trade fest, back and forth. By the end of it, Sinister in that 2v2, it was Molosca and Nico in 2 very strong individual plays. So Nico with that C4 really opened things up, and of course the flank up from Brown Stairs to find the last one, but Molosca, the game sense to peek out aggressively onto that balcony, and I don't know whether that was a Valkyrie camera thrown outside. Of course, remembering that with the IQ ban, it's so difficult to find those black eyes, especially if they are put in positions outside where it's a really long way away. It's much more difficult to see with the naked eye. Really good plays there from both of those Sinister players to regain that lead that they are so familiar with. Of course, sitting at 3rd place on the Six Masters standings. This has been one hell of a season for Sinister.
Attackers are moving out to locate
Is this
a
a
bomb
Valkyrie camera going out?
Defender has left
Careful.
the designated station.
C4, please work. Oh no. It was worth a shot, you know, worth a shot.
Hey, it was in the right direction and a bit of a shake of the head from Derpate, but that's one way to get sort of on a highlight reel if it does work. And I guess you got to shoot your shot sometimes, Dev. If you're gonna go for those spectacular plays, you got to admire the courage to do so. And wasting a big utility like that C4 may come back to bite him. But hats off. I like the play. I'll give him credit.
Yeah, sorry, I just realized that Sinister changed their bomb site choice last minute off of Stat Trophy over onto Kitchen. So maybe trying something a little bit different here. That said, Warden, a lot of the early information here. He's going to get maybe one of his teammates on that drone so he can push in. Deptra also droned up from Pantry, but now Fisher Guy's peeking this. Warden's so cautious, so worried about this. He sees the shotgun barrel. I'd be so scared here. Peeking this angle. Peeks out.
Doesn't seem scared at all, though. The way he's able to just keep pushing forward. Fisher Guy does tag him, but Warden, courageous as ever, trying to find that opening frag for Ferox. You think that he got at least a B, creating a bit of damage with Fisher Guy, forcing him back away from that A-bomb site. Nico gets the opening frag, though, of this round on the Deptra, who now means for Ferox, they're playing at a disadvantage once again. This is where the map could potentially fall away from Ferox if it goes 3-5 and Sinister can capitalize on their defense. They've got to be careful that it doesn't slip away from them.
This has been great for Sinister, actually. Retaking that Pantry side where Deptra was trying to push up and also denying the X-Kairos that were put onto that Pantry wall into Kitchen. Of course, the X-Kairos did detonate successfully directly into that bomb site, into Dining, but that opening isn't everything. Sushi above, trying to find angles through the floor onto these anchors, but Sinister are just sitting safely for now. Vincier in a very aggressive position, but he's not over-peaking this. He's just waiting for Sushi to come out that door as the Candelas go out. Shade goes in. Is there an opportunity here for the plant to go down from Warden? It looks like it might just be secured. Sinister surely going to have to retake this.
Ooh, 2 quick frags as well, making a third from Todd as he gets his double kill, and they did get that plant down as well for the diffuser. 35 seconds remaining now as Ferox have been able to turn this round back into their favor, and guess who comes in? It's Warden. Right now, sort of the star of Villa, but it was Todd who did a lot of the opening work, and Ferox have won this round from what was an early deficit, both for time and player disadvantage.
I saw chat and I was like, what's that F for? And then you see that and you're like, ah. Yeah, I would put an F in chat too, not gonna lie. I would definitely put an F in chat. Either an F or a GN, you know, one of those two.
4-4 though, Dev. I mean, it's hard to split them right now as we go over to Trophy and Stat this time around. No last second change, I don't think, but it's hard to split them. I still feel like on face value, the eye test, I guess, Sinister do feel like they've been in control more often. Ferox are finding those cheeky picks, those cheeky frags, and they're just like the little stepbrother that just won't go away. You can't shoo them away, and they continue to claw at Sinister here. And if they get to a point where they get this next round 5-4, puts the pressure right back onto Sinister.
I'm totally with you with that gut feeling making you think Sinister does seem to be winning this, but at the same time, at Ferox, a lot of these rounds that they're winning, it's because there's just something really unlikely or something really impactful is happening. For example, Warden on his defense in that last defense round, a 3K flank from Bedroom, completely shutting down Sinister. In that round, it was the ability for Ferox to get that plant down in a position where Sinister had so many numbers up and you'd expect them to attempt some form of denial, but it just wasn't present. And if Ferox can keep this up, keep these impact plays coming, and that positions them up really nicely on this map. But of course, Sinister, they do seem to have that consistency, with the exception of just these few moments where we wonder what went wrong.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like just sort of lapses in concentration or just a blimp on the radar that shows up every now and then where Sinister just sort of falter for that split second, and Ferox are able to capitalize. To the credit, they're ready and waiting, and they're putting in the work to be in this position at 4-4. So you give full credit to Ferox for how this is playing out right now. Sinister just feels like they're, in my eyes, just playing maybe that little one step below their best, their absolute best, which maybe would be the difference between, say, being 4-4 to, say, 3-5. Right now, Ferox have earned this tight going into round 9. Can they find the lead once again? They were the ones that started. Of course, they got that opening round, pushing up the pantry stairs. Sushi does get Molosca creeping around the pantries, and Sushi does take a bit of damage for it, but it's still a great start again here for Ferox. They've got the aces right now, whereas Sinister feel like they've just got a pair of kings. They're both so neck and neck, but Ferox got the very slight advantage.
I was pretty scared, they're not going to lie. I saw Molosca come with the flank. I thought Sushi had no clue, but he was definitely clued in. Must have been a good drone pre-placed there. And the next step here is Sinister trying to remove those electric claws from the wall. It looks like one's been taken out. With the Thatcher and the IQ both banned, not only is it hard to remove those electric claws, but it's hard to even find them in the first place. You can see the top right hand of your screen placed in a fairly elevated position, but Ferox do go below, opening up the floor and find those angles to remove at least one of those electric claws, which enables Warden's X-Kairos to detonate there. And that's the opening that they really would like onto the bomb site from Master.
Minute 10 remaining.
Attackers have dropped down.
We've definitely seen here on Villa that getting that opening frag, that opening pick, that opening advantage doesn't necessarily translate to a win. Time and time again, it's been quite simple. The 20-second plant meta, you go in, see if you can get that plant down and just basically trade frags back and forth, and whoever really trades the best. I mean, it's quite simple. Whoever just gets the most kills wins, right? I mean, forehead, but there's a trade back at least, and now it's a 4v4, 40 seconds. It's all in the numbers, Dev, and Vincere will get Deptra. The advantage is all but dissipated, though. Quickly, once again, traded, tied, 3-3, 30 seconds. It's all in the numbers.
That shield is just so impactful there that Vinny is holding, especially with that ACOG. That said, Candela rolls on through, and this could be the difference maker here. Pushing on through, it's Shade. Pre-firing, but there you go. There's the Warden to take him out.
15 seconds remaining.
1 versus... Oh, 2 versus 2 still. Vinny to back him up. Oh, Fisher almost goes down. Vinny just holding with a sliver of HP on site. Warden goes in, finds one, bearing 9 in hand. 4 seconds left, has to go for this kill. There's information from the Evil Eye. Where is this player? Nowhere to be seen. Nothing he can do, and Sinister win that based on time.
Messi probably sums that round up towards the end especially, but credit to Sinister. They were able to buy a lot of time from the attack of Ferox, and now they take this slight edge as we get a bit of a replay, especially at the beginning there. You know, you mentioned you thought Molosca was going to get that frag, doesn't quite find it. And this is where, you know, 25 seconds, 30 seconds remaining is when Ferox elected to start pushing in. Too little too late, and even though Warden gets there, that kill there, he just couldn't deal with the Warden remaining.
Oh no, that's going to keep catching me, Xenox. Every time. Every time. Oh no. So, funnily enough, Sinister are just going to get rid of the... Oh, there you go. 6 pick onto the Warden. I was going to say getting rid of the Warden, but no. Vinny's going to stick onto it. And that Ying has been impactful, I will say. As soon as Shade threw that Candela on out to deal with that position that Vinny was playing on the shield facing that Master Breach, as soon as that Candela went rolling out, you could feel that pressure onto Sinister. You could see that Shade had an opportunity, sprinted on in, guns are blazing, but Fisher guy dodged the push in just in time, managed to flank back around to Master, and of course then turn on Shade and win that gunfight. Really, I do have to credit Fisher guy for that round win. Super impactful. But Ferox still do have an opportunity here. Only an arm's reach away is Sinister, and I mean, if they can just grab them and pull them back, surely they can overtake in this race.
Who's been the better Warden so far, Warden or Vince?
It's just not comparable, is it?
Well, Sinister, 1 round away from map point here on Villa. It is their map pick. We've mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast, not a lot on the line for Sinister, pretty much nothing. They've already made top 4, but you do want to have that winning mentality and the momentum going into the playoffs, so they're giving it their all here against Ferox. And well, to the credit of Ferox, they've been able to respond decently so far going into this now 10th round, but you lose this round, Dev and Matt Point, and it may just all just be too much for Ferox in the end.
I'd like to point out the way that Candela was used just then by Shade. It was cooked so that it detonated just before it went through that doorway. And then all of the little sub-flashes that came out of it burned the 2 ADSs. So that ADS is now completely gone. Sushi makes sure of it with some flashes. Breaching round comes out, and that destroys the shield there. The Warden attempts to re-peek there, but no success for Vinny, and he gets back onto the bomb site. That's top brown presence eliminated, and Ferox can get aggressive into study now. But it looks like he's about to force choke someone.
Yes. Minute 30 seconds remaining. Vince is doing it all right now. Shade. Continuing to pick the Ying despite Warden from Vince here.
C4 ready.
Without a C4 over the top. Not going to find anything though. I believe there was only 2 C4s available. Depending on if Nico's used his yet or not, would mean either there's one left or none left. Cantalas are going to go out into the vault. This one member of Sinister. As the Cantalas ring out, it's going to be the push time for Shade along with the diffuser. And unfortunately, the trades are going in favor of Sinister. Although, as I say that, Warden finds a double kill at the last second. The plan was denied, but it's a 3 versus 1. Ferox should surely be able to win the round from here and make it 5 versus 5.
There is an inkling of an opportunity, though, for Nico. Oh, not letting that shot could be critical. Warden's been on fire. One player is down. Oh, concussed now. Surely Nico doesn't just let this slide. Regain your composure. Get out the MPX, but fully flashed now. No, he's going at it with the Deagle. Another flashbang. Yeah, not much he can do there. Warden, 3 kills on the round, I think. 4 kills, maybe. He's been popping off so far for Ferox, and it seems like nobody can stop him.
It feels like Sinister just can't stop Ferox from continuing to bite back. And it looks like that they've had an advantage. Doesn't bother Ferox, so he can still come in and win the run. And the same can be said for Ferox as well. There's been so many times here on Villa where one of these two teams have had an advantage, whether it be time, position, or just the number of players alive. And it hasn't really been impactful on the final result. It's hard to gauge who's going to win a round really until the last 20-30 seconds.
And it really just makes it even worse, the fact that we're dealing with a Ying, right? Where that can go either way. We've seen some success from the Ying, but we've also seen Sinister counter it very effectively. And the obvious one is the Warden pick, right? Yeah, simply just nullifies the effect of the flashes from Ying, at least for the Warden himself. But to almost an equal extent, the smoke in that previous round from Sinister really put a thorn in Shade's side as he tries to progress through by denying a lot of those entries. So, gotta credit Sinister. It's not just, okay, we bring this operator, therefore we counter that operator. It's a team effort, and it's also about those individual little plays there, whether it's a smoke or a Warden, and also good placement as well. So I've been impressed by how they've been trying to deal with this from Ferox, even though Warden, every single time, I mean the player Warden, just seems to be able to pop off and get like a 3k minimum and somehow close things out. I mean, the man's playing hard breach and top fragging. Like that's something else.
Yeah. I just love the fact that you have to specify that it's the player, right? We're talking about the player and not Vinciu, who's playing Warden, the operator. One thing I want to bring up as we have a quick little rehost is that Ferox have not won 2 rounds in a row yet. This is their opportunity. In fact, the last couple of rounds, last 5 rounds to be exact, have gone back and forth. So big chance now into this next round for Ferox to get 2 in a row. If you do that, you get match point as well. So if they don't do that, match point goes to Sinister, and then we kind of expect maybe this could just continue to go back and forth. But one of the points I sort of brought up not too long ago was that despite any sort of advantages at the beginning of these rounds, it doesn't seem to deter either team in any single way. We've seen Ferox lose rounds from having a good position, like 5 versus 3, for instance. They went on and lost the round. We've seen some crazy rush rounds. We've seen, plans get denied. We've seen it all so far, but one thing we haven't really seen, as I said, is Ferox winning 2 in a row and Sinister pulling away. They did get a 2 in a row early on. They haven't been able to pull away.
Yeah, and it goes to show these teams, even in late round, can regain from deficits. And I think that's a testament to not only as a whole, these teams, the information gathering and the chemistry, But these individual players are so talented. We've seen some impact players. We talked a lot about Warden. I also want to mention, even though Fisho Guy's gotten shut down a few times, he had that essential round where he found that one pick onto the Ying and then ran away to hide from Warden to play out the timer. We've had players like Vinny popping off as well. So I want to credit a lot of these highlight moments to the highlight players that are behind the mouse and keyboard on those moments.
Definitely agree. And, you know, you mentioned Warden's been great. You know, I think, honestly, even guys like Sushi have been really good. He's found a couple of opening frags for Ferox as well. Vincere as well, playing the Warden has been impactful, has had a difference. You know, we saw that 1v1 actually with Shade on the Ying and where that made a difference because he was playing the Warden. And we haven't seen a lot of Warden this season of 6 Masters at all, really. I think this might be the first time I've seen Warden. Definitely using the Warden for the right reasons as well. To be fair, though, I will say, Dev, at the beginning of the season, for the first half of the season, Ying was banned out pretty much every round. Not till the last couple of weeks as she started to see a bit more play.
And I think that's because countering the Ying isn't always as simple as bring this operator, therefore you counter that operator. A lot of people think, oh, we'll just bring Warden. It's not quite that simple. And we've seen rounds without the Warden or where the Warden isn't impactful, but the Ying is countered with other methods. For example, the use of the smoke on that previous round, which was pretty effective at countering that Ying. And I think it's the fact that Ying was banned a lot at the start was because teams were maybe a little bit less confident. Of course, the buff had come through and there's maybe a little bit less confidence at getting these more creative methods of countering those operators. And then it takes a bit of time to get used to the best way to deal with it. But speaking of impact players, and like I said, we talked a lot about Warden. You mentioned Sushi. I've actually just checked my numbers. He's won 3 opening engagements so far. So he's found the first pick in 3 rounds. He's died only once in the opening engagement. So he's been quite impactful at getting that early advantage. And while we've mentioned that sometimes that early advantage doesn't always convert through, I think in particular for Ferox, they're fairly Avalanche-based team. As soon as they do have a little bit of an inkling, they just go full send. They capitalize upon that and make the most of that scenario. And I think that has led to some of these landslide rounds from Ferox. Not that it's been a regular, but there have been a few where just an impact play has made all the difference.
Yeah, 100%. You know, we talk about sort of the role of the entry fragger or you know, the guys who are able to get those early kills to open things up, you know, the likes of like Ippy style from Akami, you know, for example, and they get a lot of the credit, they get a lot of the spotlight. And I just think for Sushi tonight, it was probably good to just maybe talk about him a little bit because he has been successful in that tonight. And as a whole, as you mentioned, it's the team that then follows up on that. And it's the team that's going to allow sort of those early frags. There hasn't been a whole lot of sort of like roam v roam. It's mainly been angle peaks, you know, or, you know, peeking through a window and finding that's how a lot of these early frags have been, except for the situation on the pantry stairs. That was probably the most noticeable sort of roam v roam encounter here on Villa so far. I want your thoughts though on how this is being played, because at the beginning of this match, we saw that horizontal hold and we saw Ferox giving up that second floor and giving Sinister that vertical control. It actually worked. But for the most part, we've been seeing a lot more from Sinister focusing on vertical rather than horizontal. Do you need to find a balance, I think, or is this better than holding horizontal to just focus on vertical?
I think a lot of it comes into reading your opponent. So if the other team has left you an opening, for example, what we saw in round number 5, where Ferox had opted to defend kitchen dining with a vertical hold, lots of utility invested above. Sinister saw there was no horizontal pressure, so they just went full send. They took that control. So a lot of it is about reading into your opponents. And I mean, Ferox could have countered that take from Sinister if they had prepared the correct holes through the floor, maybe if they had a flank opportunity. And that's why it's all about reading into what your enemy is doing and making sure that you can be an adaptive mold to counter that.
So we get back to round 11 now. As I mentioned before, a big opportunity for Ferox to find their second round win in a row. Yet to do so here on Villa. And if they can find it here, it'll be match point waiting for them on the other side. Sinister, of course, are going to have other plans here on their defensive hold of Aviator and Games. Did lose it in round 10, Dev. So it's second try here for them.
Before insertion.
But, you know, if the pattern continues, this will be a Sinister round because almost exclusively we just do back and forth rounds. One for another, one for another. And with that short break while we rehosted there, no doubt Sinister would have had a little bit of opportunity to talk about, okay, so Ferox, how are they taking this? They're consistently pushing from that study side, and I wouldn't be surprised if Sinister really does just try to expect that. And funnily, on contrast, Ferox are actually, at least at the moment, telegraphing that they're doing the opposite with players on bedroom, that Sushi to drone on through. That said, Sinister, they're not being complacent here. They have 2 people on this roam. But of course, if these early gunfights with Moloska and Nico start to go against them, it could make a huge difference here.
Well, they're going to definitely drone out Moloska, and if they can find the opening frag onto him, that opens up statuary in the second floor for Ferox, as you said, makes a huge difference. Deptra might elect to just push in if he wants to, try and gain a bit of a footing in there. We'll drone it out over in bedroom first, but it's the ping as well. And Moloska's going to drop down, does feel the pressure starting to mount over towards statuary. And into master bedroom for Sushi, does have the diffuser in hand, watches those stairs, now makes the push. Ooh. This is a very early push through Astro now, 2 minutes on the clock, as they have pretty much got most of second floor control already on this north side.
Early engagement there. Sushi doesn't land a shot, that said. Moloska gets back to site unharmed. This is a pretty successful roam for Sinister, to be honest. Half the round down. They haven't shot many drones, but they've made an attempt at thwarting Ferox as much as possible. Nico, a C4 did not land. It might have destroyed any Claymore that was on the Astro stairs, however. And now Ferox starting to shape up for this north side push. Pushing on through Classical Hall. Sushi does need to be cautious, however, low on HP. A single bullet may net the injure for a fire up. Jefe here, ready and waiting to try to contest through that drone hole. Moloska and Nico have retaked that roam downstairs.
Turbo does have 2 impact grenades as well. Wants to throw it through the drone hole. Could do so as he continues to hold vault. Does have Fisher Guy as well close by, but flushing the Maestro out of vault is going to be difficult. Nico on the roam for Sinister here, and this is where it feels like the ace up the sleeve potentially for Sinister if as he comes in, as Ferox starts to push in. He's definitely going to catch Deptra off guard. Actually, very fortunate the Shade was there as well to at least get the refrag. So while it was a nice opening frag, the refrag comes out immediately, 20 seconds. And speaking of immediately, that diffuser has to go down immediately.
But Ying is the best operator when you are short on time. Sushi trying to get that plant down. Of course, there are holes underneath. Watching through the smoke is Shade. He finds a second one as well, but now he has to plant himself because Derp did deny the diffuser. Oh! And from below, Moloska's going to clutch that round for Sinister. 2 back-to-back here. And wow, that was a heart in your throat moment if I've ever seen one.
The pattern continues as we go to match point now for Sinister. They're the only team who's been able to get 2 wins in a row. They do so again here, and they will take Villa. There's that opening frag we saw from Nico. Was immediately traded back, but it was at least able to put Ferox sort of off footing for a bit. But it was a 3 versus 1. It was just so fortunate that Moloska, as you could see with the floor being opened up, knew exactly where that plant was going down. It was always going to be an easy denial in the end. As we go to Trophy and Statuary, match point for Sinister.
That frag from Nico was just so clever as well. I know he was refragged immediately, so it wasn't the most impactful thing, but what you might have noticed, once Nico was inside of Astro, he noticed there was a drone watching him. So, okay, they're going to go and watch for his flank. So he pretended to sprint into bathroom. He sprinted into bathroom as fast as he could, making it look like he was going to go towards Master. And then we saw one player head straight towards Master to hold that out. And then Deptra sprinted as fast as he could through Statuary, sprinted straight into Astro, expecting the player to be in bathroom or Master. And Deptra was going to flank from the Astro side. But of course, Nico had flanked back. He checked that no one was on the drone. It was not lit up. And then he just waited for Deptra to sprint straight into him. Really clever play there from Nico. Of course, it only netted him 1 kill. And the most impactful play that round was Milo denying the plant. Also, credit to the information gathering that was on site. from Sinister to enable that final frag to the floor from Molosca. So many just good individual plays that we're seeing here from Sinister, and it's really exemplary stuff.
Attackers recovered the bomb diffuser.
We can still say the same, I guess, with Ferox as well. A lot of the plays we've been seeing from them, you know, Shade picked up a 3 kill in that round. How much of it you want to sort of put onto the efforts of the Candelas is up to you, but he still played it really well and almost got that plant down. If it wasn't for Molosca in that position, it technically would have won the round for Ferox, and he would have been the hero in this story. Instead, though, Molosca is the villain or the hero, depending on where your allegiance lies. We now at match point for Sinister. Will they find their second back-to-back win on Villa? If they do so now, it will be a 7-5 victory, and for Ferox, it'll be yet another game that the stats say that it's an L, but we know they really took it to Sinister, and it was really close. But can they this time maybe get over the hurdle? Good start.
Bomb
Tetra finds the
located by
opening kill
attackers.
onto Fisher Guy.
Finding the smoke early is always very impactful. Smoke, the operator that really it's becomes more and more powerful as the round goes on. But of course, eliminated now. Sinister will have to regain that advantage. Derp with a C4 ready, also contesting the angle into bathroom. Stronghold here in Astro. CX Kairos lands there on the wall of master bedroom. Presence below from Deptra to destroy any mute jammers or utility on the wall. Molosca's actually keen to contest through those holes. Derpe is just waiting patiently here. Ferox is just trying to find this mute jammer that's disrupting the wall. He's really struggling.
1 minute remaining. Can't worry too much more if they
It's on
get
the
it. I
beam.
think they'd-
It's
Oh
on
my
the beam.
goodness.
They can't shoot it because it's on the beam. No Thatcher. Maybe an explosive through the floor would get it, but Ferox looks like they're abandoning that notion and just trying to go as fast as they can to hit the most vulnerable position that they think is possible. And that's Derpe here holding fast in
A bomb has
Astro.
been located.
He's got that C4 ready. I wouldn't be surprised if he finds a frag at the kill feed very shortly. He's been holding that position for what
Attackers
feels
have
like
dropped
an
the bomb
eternity.
diffuser.
Also
Attackers have
watching
recovered their diffuser.
into the bathroom. They're going to peek this out. No, going to go there for the C4 down thrown. They do fall back immediately, though. They were ready for it. The Candelas will start to take their effect as they push into Astro. The double kills ring out though for Sinister as they get back
15
control.
seconds
Never mind now
left.
to 3 versus
The
3.
attackers' bomb diffuser
Nico,
has been
Vince, and
dropped.
Derpe up for Sinister, and they're in control. 10 seconds remaining. Ferox are going to fall at the wayside here. The final hurdle. Sinister will take their biggest leap, and they will take this round. The Knights, and well, that's one way to finish a round. GG's. Sinister will take Villa. It is their map pick after all. Comfortably, 7-5.
What did you get up to on Wednesday night, Derpe? Oh yeah, not much. Just 360 knife to win a map. How about you? Oh, that was a fantastic performance from Sinister, really through and through, and especially in that last round to hold on. And it goes to show it's not always just going nuts with a solid kill, but also playing your utility well that can get the victory there. For Sinister, it was all about that mute jammer placed on that beam that Ferox could not deal with, and then just falling back and preventing Ferox from brute forcing the issue. And in the dying moments there, Sinister had all the information they could ever ask for with those black eyes and evil eye cameras. Sinister 7-5 on their map pick. Now Villa was meant to be a bit of a curveball. We were impressed by what Ferox brought to the table, how prepared Ferox appeared to be going into Villa, but Sinister still didn't let that slide, and they do take it. I'm not going to say convincing, but I'm not going to say dominating. I don't think it was either of those things, but I think it's undoubtable that Sinister was definitely the better team on that map.
Well, for sure, they won at 7-5 in the end. I mean, it didn't even really go to overtime. The rounds that they won, they probably looked a bit more convincing at times too. Ferox probably aren't beating themselves up too much. It should be a reminder, at least, that for their top 4 chances, they technically don't even need to get a map tonight against Sinister, so there's not too much pressure on Ferox to even win, say, on Clubhouse coming up after this, but considering that that was their first time playing Villa this season of Six Masters for Ferox, so it's been a bit of time between drinks. I thought they played that really, really well. They looked like they were prepared for it, even if it's not sort of a map that they play on too often. And they took it right up to Sinister, a team who undoubtedly is in a lot of form heading towards playoffs.
Yeah, all credit to Ferox. Both of these teams, really. Sinister definitely cementing themselves in that top 3, gunning for that top 2 potential as well, pending on how Akami and Wildcard also do this week. And of course, the result of this next game, Clubhouse, where Ferox do have the opportunity on their map to strike back against Sinister.
We're going to go to a quick break. On the other side will be Clubhouse for this matchup between Ferox and Sinister.
Fine. Attackers drop the bomb.
Please hold. Your call is very important to us. All operators are busy at this time.
Where the sun doesn't go down, and we will drift away until the day the world stops spinning. Oh, baby. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Yeah, yeah. The stars falls around us, entwining us. So baby, stay with me where the sun doesn't go down, and we will drift away until the day the world stops spinning, 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 until the day the world stops spinning.
Welcome back to all you lovely people at home. We're halfway through this series between Ferox and Sinister. Sinister taking out Villa 7-5. It was their map pick, and it was well played to them in the end. And a very hard-fought series. Both teams going back and forth, literally, for what felt like 6-7 rounds until finally Sinister just sort of pulled away at the end.
Yeah, really good fundamentals there and some great plays that we were witness to. Players went big, especially on Ferox. I want to say Warden, who time and time again, week after week, always pulls in big numbers, and the fact that he does that while playing some good utility ops and doing his job as well is always great to see. But Sinister, they do lock that one out. They've had a fantastic season so far, and they're looking to finish off today, right now, their final map of the entire season, hopefully flawless.
The dragon dominates the dog is the ticker down below. And well, I don't know if dominate is the right word, because it was 7-5. It was close. It was back and forth. Credit to Ferox. They did play well on a map that they hadn't played at all this season. And for Sinister, though, yeah, one step closer for them to being very much ready to go for playoffs. They can't get first place. I just want to reiterate on that. It's not a possibility for them. They can only get second at best.
Yes, and that's due to Akami and Wildcard. Even if Sinister get more points than one of them, well, since Akami and Wildcard play each other tomorrow night, then one of them has to get at least 3 points, right? Worst case scenario is one of them gets 3 points and they'll be, well, they both get 3 points and they'll be over Sinister, or one of them gets 6 points, in which case that team will definitely be over Sinister. But second place is still on the cards, and I know Sinister, it's not just about, it's not just about, prize money and all that. It's also about bragging rights and definitely the pride that Sinister wants to wear going into playoffs.
Well, for those of you who voted for Sinister in the poll vote, the bragging rights are still up for grabs. For those who voted Ferox, well, unfortunately, that's no longer a possibility. The 6% draw, though, still a chance. And going into Clubhouse, I wouldn't put it past Ferox to maybe steal one away against Sinister. And if I want to reiterate about sort of that first place, I'm going to also reiterate about Ferox's chances here, and that they're in this really bizarre situation where they can get 2-0 tonight and they still be happy going into tomorrow night, knowing we only need to get, say, 1 or 2 maps against LFO. So either, beat them or get a draw, and they'll be in 4th place and going into the playoffs. It wouldn't be probably the most ideal sort of scenario to be going into the playoffs in that regard, but hey, I don't think they would really care as long as they're in 4th.
Yeah, the thing that is still very much up in the air in Six Masters is who is taking that 4th spot to playoffs. Is it going to be Knights? Is it going to be Ferox? Is it going to be LFO? And this is not do or die for Ferox. If they can win here against Sinister, it drastically increases their chances. However, they still have an opportunity tomorrow night. But right now, it's Sinister's last game of the season, and it's against Ferox. It is Sinister's map pick. It's Clubhouse.
And you feel like they're going to want to go out with a bang for Sinister, don't you think? Like, as you said, you put it perfectly. It's their last game of this season of Six Masters. You don't want to go out on a losing note. Well, I would say that obviously they're going to be playing in the playoffs, so I probably should just, predicate that. But that for the finishing off the regular season, finish on a high, finish on a series win, a 2-0 at that, against a team that's competing for top 4, would be feeling quite glorious, I would say.
Now, I mentioned that this is Sinister's map pick. It's actually not. I was wrong. This is Ferox's map pick, but you forgive me for saying that, because Sinister have actually picked this twice so far in Six Masters. Like, this is a good map. For Sinister, they beat LFO on it 7-3 last week. Ferox beat Kanga on this last week as well. So this is a good map for both teams, which means we're going to get to see some fantastic high-octane Siege.
Yeah, and for the folks at home, it's been a bit of a while since Ferox sort of last lost on Clubhouse. It was 7-8 to Akami. Prior to that, it was 5-7 to Wildcard. So even their losses that they've had on this map, this has been their most picked map, their most played map, and while they've had mixed results in terms of win-loss, they've been performing even in those losses. So Sinister have really got a task here against Ferox on Clubhouse. It is their map pick for a reason, but as you said, Sinister have also picked Clubhouse 2 times this season, and they've got like a 2-1 record on Clubhouse. So they'll be feeling comfortable. It's why I said, pre-Villa, technically, Clubhouse should be more of the 50-50 between the 2 maps as we go to Church and Arsenal first up.
And I'm just going to mention the ban phase here because we didn't really go through it. Thatcher, a very common ban, as we've mentioned, just a nice little utility blanket that the attackers can put over the bomb site or anywhere, really. And getting rid of that forced the attackers to get more creative. That said, Maverick is still in, so you can really utilize Maverick for a lot of the things you would be utilizing Thatcher for, whether it's opening up hatches that have electric claws on them or opening up the CCTV wall. The Hibana ban just reduces the maximum amount of hard breach, forcing the attackers onto Thermite and Maverick, which, as you see, are both present. The Goyo is the most unusual ban here for Sinister, and to be honest, I don't fully understand the thought process here. And Ferox are a team that's used it. We saw Sushi on it quite a few times on Villa, and perhaps Sinister just don't really want to. I guess once we see Sinister on the attack, we might see their playstyle changing. But the one thing I do want to really talk about, it's not actually something in this ban phase. It's something lacking from this ban phase. It's the Ying, and we've talked about it so many times, right? You've said, Xenox, that Ying was banned almost constantly through the first half of the season, then teams let it go. Yeah. But specifically here on Clubhouse, specifically Ferox, specifically Shade, who's currently playing the Ying, he just completely obliterated Kanga last week. There was nothing that Kanga could do on their defenses, especially of this Church and Arsenal, to repel Shade and his Ying, despite having both Thatcher and Maverick banned. Ferox just used that Church hatch to the best of their ability, and the Ying down from it. It was absolutely oppressive. So I'm really going to be looking here at Sinister and how they deal with these defenses and how they deal with that Ying specifically.
Shade had good success on the Ying. We haven't seen it too often on Clubhouse. But in the same breath, of course, Mencia had good success on the Warden. 2 minutes. Ferox on the attack first up. Does feel like they're going to have to be the team to sort of be a bit more aggressive of the two. I mean, Sinister were in control on Villa. A lot of the times their rounds were more convincing, the ones that they won. And it felt like Ferox was sort of on the back foot a bit at almost all times. But while they were on the back foot, they would usually continue to sort of press forward a little bit. It was almost like one step forward, 2 steps back. But in the end, 7-5, Sinister got the job done. Ferox have got to now take that extra step here on Clubhouse. Try and gain a lead of their own. Try and play a bit more advantageous. And with 1 minute 25 seconds remaining, Warden going to open up this hatch.
Yep. Maverick's pretty good for it. Does take a lot of fuel, though. Just over a minute left, and that's Sushi going to drop down. Is that Thermite potentially going to go for this church wall? A really old-style push here. In fact, Warden's going to open up a couple peak holes at the same time. Is there any reply to this from Sinister? Or perhaps an impact grenade? Doesn't seem to be so. And that's an opening on Church. That said, Fisher Guy does have a shield to play behind and the gas to really give him some maneuverability and lock out Ferox. So that's a good position to be in. But when will these Candelas roll out from Shade?
Usually they roll out. Last couple of seconds of the round, leaves it to the last moment. Make that desperate push. So it's at least something that Ferox can fall back on if these rounds do take a bit longer than they would like. Fisher Guy's going to make the aggressive peek through the doorway. Shade will punish him. Believe it or not, that was the opening frag of the round at the 30-second mark. Since then, though, Killfeed lights up, trades back and forth, and it's Deptra who finds double, and Ferox apparently win the round. I don't know what else you could really say. That was just messy and chaotic, but Ferox will take the round.
So I'm going to summarize Ferox's strat right there. So let's open up the moto hatch. Let's open up the church wall. Let's just completely open everything up. We're spam utility, and we're just going to kill everybody. Everyone in church, you're dead. That's it. That's it. And credit to Vinny holding fort with the Warden, so he's invulnerable to the flashes while he activates his smart glasses. He did find one pick, but he was refragged, and it's pretty tough in that position. You saw him using the SMG-12. He ran out of ammo, tried to switch to the shotty. Fisho guy's going to go on the Warden now. It looks like Sinister are going to keep picking it. And on top of that, with Ferox, it wasn't just, brute force, this one angle. They had two avenues. They had the thermite breach on the church wall, and they also had the moto doorway. And one player, I didn't quite see who, one player pushed down through blue at the last minute to kill that person playing at AKs at the shelving unit at the back of Arsenal. So it's great stuff from Ferox. If you want to know how to be incredibly oppressive on your attacks using Ying, Ferox are the ones to watch. They do it down. They got it down to a T.
I wonder if, I think also Fisher Guy just peeking that door so early. I think he may have even peeked it before the Candelas took effect. So,
Yeah. I didn't quite catch that, but I think the Candela was behind him, so it probably wouldn't have flashed him. But I think the thought process there is, all right, these guys are about to execute. I'm going to try and peek instead of just waiting for them to push in. I'm going to try and peek when they're not expecting it. But of course, that didn't quite work. And being the smoke, a really good close range operator with some good utility to lock out those kinds of pushes. So perhaps a bit ill-advised there for Fisher Guy.
An intriguing take as well is that usually Church and Arsenal, at least on Clubhouse this season, has been one of the harder sites to take for attacking teams. So for Ferox to sort of get that opening round, now you move to the more conventional second floor on Clubhouse. In this case, CCTV and Cash. You got the Maverick to open up the Kennel's wall. I mean, it's all sort of straightforward here for this round. It's all been done time and time again. It's just a matter of how well can you execute.
Attackers have located a bomb.
This is surgical right now for Warden, just removing as much as he can. You'll notice that the defenders have actually already destroyed just parts of the soft wall. Makes it a little bit more frustrating to Maverick. Warden, though, he's pretty experienced here. He's going to do his best, but of course the wall hasn't been Maverick tricked yet. He has to get every single inch of it on the top and the bottom. There you go. The reinforcement falls away. And then with the lifeline, Deptra opens up the soft part of the wall. Nice stuff. Half the round done. Ferox has got to keep moving from here.
The quickest Kennel's wall opening, but job done nonetheless, and that's all you can really ask for. Minute 20 seconds remaining, and we do get our opening pick. It's going to go to the way of Sinister as Todd meets his demise. Deptra's going to keep a lot of pressure up this Kennel's balcony, but I think for Ferox, you need to continue to try and push into construction, for example. A lot of the effort seeming to be towards Dirt Bay rafters. The nade is going to open it up. That might open garage up for Ferox now. Warden in. He does get fragged, though, from top red. Miloska gets that, pushes back up. 58 seconds remaining. And again, sloppy back and forth. And it's hard to find, at least from the eye test, who's really winning this round. 3 versus 3.
It's a very early C4 there from Nico. Not sure if he had that info, but a bit premature. That said, the hole opened by his C4 does give him visibility on any player that crosses on from rafters into CCTV. Nico below, though, gets that QE peek onto Shade. He might not be aware that he got the injure there, but it's still going to be impactful. It's all on Deptra, the last man still up and standing for his team. And Nico still just being the rat downstairs. Oh no, he got the injury.
They're all injured.
They're all injured. Deptra can pick himself up, though. He can withstand. Come on, surely this isn't happening. Nico with the shotgun snipe, and everyone just falls.
Well, you don't see that too often, at least at this sort of level. 6 Masters, all 3 injured. Ferox's attack collapsing in the end. It was messy though, Dev, and typically I think when you have those sort of messy attacks, it probably favors the defenders at times because they're the ones in their sort of predefined positions. They know what they're trying to do, where they're at. The attackers then can struggle a bit to push into, say, an area. I don't know how much pressure was really put towards the construction side of things. A lot of it seemed more like kennels and garage, and noticeably trying to get the player clear up in rafters, but not too much of a focus over at construction, which is a bit strange. Usually you're seeing teams push through there as well.
I was surprised that the attackers, Ferox, didn't really try to contest Nico's position in lounge that much, and I have a feeling maybe that's where Todd died early from Milo. Being the bucket would make sense that he would have gone downstairs to apply some vertical pressure, but Sinister shutting him down nice and early meant that they had more freedom downstairs, and we saw how impactful that freedom was late round for Nico as he found those last 2 kills. But nonetheless, Sinister, they're not going to retry... Oh, sorry, they are going to retry Church and Arsenal after a successful cash, but this time they've completely changed their attack. They're going to do the fairly typical SSG roam with the Mute, the Aussie, the Vigil, the trifecta of information denial, and the Castle as well. Bit of information denial, denying lines of sight, slowing down Ferox, and of course with the Thatcher bound, it'll be difficult for the attackers to just blanketly clear out this information denial, and well, a roam clear will be very, very difficult.
And we've seen the success of this roam, though, be a bit mixed results. Depending on how you want to play it and sort of where you want to push it. It's more so if you catch the attacking team off guard. If they catch on pretty quickly that it's going to be an SSG roam, then they can just slow their attack down a bit, really be precise and clear with like checking angles and checking rooms, and then eventually push towards Church and Arsenal. And well, that's the start you do want. That is how a successful roam looks like, Dev. So there you go. That's the plus side for Sinister.
Eventually refragged, but then refragged back again. Milo rotated back up to just keep applying that pressure, and now he has the diffuser in his clutches. Deptra just trying to find this peak. Surely he can't find Milo here. Oh, spots out the head. All you need to do is land one bullet. And he does eventually. Takes a lot of damage for it. Thankfully, he did shoot the C4 as well. It's just Shade and Deptra now. But of course, this roam is just being committed to. Now pushing down. Garage, Shade aware of this position. Surely Nico can't get back down. How do you win that fight, Nico? All on Deptra now. Just a few points of health to his name. Impact nades fly on out. And yeah, mate, this is a tall order.
Oh. You just think, though, if Nico doesn't win that, a 2 versus 2 with like 1 minute and 20 seconds remaining, that would have been the play. That would have been what cards would have been dealt to Ferox for this remaining 3rd round. Now, though, 1v3, depth is very low. It's a bit of drone information, but not much else to really follow from that. You can't expect him to sort of do too much. But if you can find a 1v3 victory for Ferox, he at least has 50 seconds of time to do so. It's the time on his side. Everything else is not.
Concussion goes out. Now, Sinister don't have to peek this. But if they do, all they got to do is land one bullet or, you know, a nitro cell. Let's check out this one. Deptra, Derpa, oh my goodness. Having Deptra and Derpa in the same game is just throwing me on an absolute limb.
Did you say before Derptra?
I did. It's because I started saying Derpa and I meant Deptra or vice versa. Oh, it's just, it's a headache.
Well, it's a headache for Ferox, I think, right now, too. Down 2-1. And again, Sinister looking in control in this series. They were in control on Villa, but it was close. On Clubhouse, as we head to gym and bedroom back up onto the 2nd floor, the eye test does still favor Sinister. Again, it is Ferox's map pick, but this has been a map that Sinister have had a bit of success on this season.
Yep, Sinister have been pretty good overall on this map this season, as you mentioned. They've picked it twice, and Ferox deciding to take Sinister here, it's a bit of a gamble because you're talking about taking this team to a map that is one of their best maps, right? So Ferox have got to have confidence in their clubhouse, and I don't blame them after last week's 7-4 over Kanga. But they've also seen weaknesses. They being Ferox, dropped this map 5-7 to Wildcard, 7-8 to Akami. Did beat Knights, however, in week 1, 7-3. So mixed results from Ferox and Sinister alike. That said, aside from a 4-7 loss in week 1 to Wildcard, Sinister has been undefeated on this map, and they picked it twice since then.
Must locate and defuse a bomb.
Sinister very much look at home as they look to defend the 2nd floor. A bit more pressure has to come from that side and on this western side, and you can see Sinister are sort of anticipating it already as sort of Warden makes his way over. This is where I think sort of Ferox went wrong last time around, is that they didn't really put too much pressure over at this wall. They focused a lot over at Kennels and Garage, and even though it's not cache and CCTV, it's still a very similar play style. And you're going to see them push in from both the west and the east and collapse in on the bomb site. That's the main goal of the 2nd floor. Deptra goes down early on. At least you're not going to have to confuse him with Derpe.
Yeah, but 2 players on Sinister have lost a lot of HP here. Fisher is down to, well, basically sneeze on him, and he's out of this. Derpa as well, pretty low. We saw this strange technique of reinforcing on both sides of the wall, one on the inside, one on the outside. It forces the attackers, if they're using thermite, they have to place the thermite charge on the either side. It can't be placed in the middle. But of course, that's not really impactful here because we have the Maverick. Shay does find one pick, so we're back at 4 apiece now. It was really just that last breath that Fisho needed to get taken out.
And the balcony wall is open as well, so that's a plus. Ferox just sort of clawing their way back as they clear out the ADS. Minute 16 seconds, but again, how much pressure really? From the looks of it, I don't think they opened up kennels, did they? Are they just going to push in from this balcony? I mean, they've got Sushi just outside bedroom and gym, but besides that, you can really see sort of the funnel effect that's going to happen for Ferox. That may backfire for them. Miloska's not going to have much pressure. Really, Sinister as a whole from this east side is not going to have too much pressure.
Yeah, you're right. Doesn't look like Ferox have any intention of hard clearing that side of the map, but here are 2 kills for Sinister. While that bathroom wall is opened, it just leaves 2 players outside here on the jacuzzi balcony. They have a good avenue into the bomb site, but might not be enough. That ADS chews up the grenade, taking on Insight. It's on Sushi. Information for Sinister, all they could ask for, but Milo's taken out. Ferox trying to suppress these retakes here, but it's difficult. Information is still for Sinister. That Evil Eye doing its job. Vinny knows exactly when to peek. And he does so right now. There's one. Diffuser on the ground. Todd, it's really just a consolation frag at this point, but he's not even able to find it. And Sinister, a first-class defense here on Gym and Bedroom.
And that's now, well, 3 rounds in a row for Sinister, something that they weren't even able to achieve on Villa. And not a very concise attack from Ferox. I've got to say, very one-dimensional. And it's certainly backfiring right now. And as we head over to CCTV and Cash, what I'm sort of looking for them to maybe change up here is a bit more pressure, say through construction, open up kennels, and then also if you can get garage, you can have 3 avenues of pushing in, and that will just give them so many more opportunities to take this bomb site.
Yeah, I'd like to see a little bit more success from Ferox attacking here. Just, I feel like everything that Ferox brings to the table, Sinister has an answer for. And Ferox are trying to not commit too much to things that they don't think they can actually accomplish. For example, like you mentioned, they didn't go for the full take of Cash last round when attacking Bedroom because, well, there's a lot of utility and players you got to invest into that. And Sinister, they're probably going to take out 1 or 2 of your players while doing that. So maybe it's worth just ignoring it and seeing what you can do. But of course, Sinister are just going to take advantage of that opportunity that you present to them.
10 seconds left.
Now, as Ferox attempt to attack CCTV Cash, I really hope that we see a bit more vertical play. Last round, Todd attacked this. He was taken out really on early from Milo, who actually managed to find 2 picks on that round from roaming downstairs. And remember that Nico was completely uncontained on that roam in lounge as well. So if we do see a bit more verticality from Ferox, a bit more success down there, denying those positions, it's going to be much more difficult for Sinister to put a roadblock in front of Ferox here.
Todd is also the player you'd probably want pushing through construction if you're going to do that too. You can open up a lot of walls in there with the sledge. So there is certainly a lot of options on the side of Ferox for how they want to attack this. Of course, Warden's going to go and trick the wall here on kennels. Sushi's going to just sort of do a bit of the rest for him, speed up this process. 2 minutes and 15 seconds, and that kennel's wall being opened up so early may just give Ferox the time to now head over more westernly, get in through construction as well, while a couple sort of just roam around and peek around the garage area, see if they can flush out Dirtbay up in rafters.
Bomb has been located.
Last time it was Warden's grenade that spelled death for Dirt, but he does have 2 ADSs supporting him. Good information gathering from Dirt, not only in bottom garage, but in construction and on site. How will they deal with Dirt, though? Fish Guy's not too far away, and he can throw some magnets as well to support if it comes down to the projectiles from Ferox to clear him out.
They have really no intention of heading to construction at all, does Ferox. They're going to just put all of their focus on Garage. Kennel's wall's open. Of course, Deptra's just looking through there, so it makes it really hard for anyone from Sinister to sort of rotate through CCTV to go and help Derpe, and he's just going to probably get collapsed on by like 3-4 members of Ferox. At best, he trades at least 1 for 1. And as I say that, at worst for Ferox, maybe they lose more than 1. Derpe still holding up in rafters. Finally going to go down to Deptra, who found the opening frag of the round. 4 versus 3. It's still a minute remaining. That's a lot of time, all things considered. Now that Ferox have got Kennel's wall, they've got Garage, or at least with rafters player taken down, they're in a much better position than they were the last time around on CCTV and Cash.
Milo here wants to make a play. Goes for that jump outside, but Todd completely read that one, heard the smack of the barricade. Milo shut down. 4 versus 2 now. Still possible for Vinny. Make that 4v1. Oh, this is a tough one, and there you go. Ferox fight back with a very convincing round. A huge one for Deptra as well. Ending it at 4-0.
Certainly a lot better from Ferox, and to their credit, they were able to get Kennels opened up super early, which gave them a lot of time of just sort of posturing around Garage, and in the end, Derpe just couldn't really do too much by himself up in rafters when you got like 4 players literally below you, all trying to flush you out with nades. They cleared out, you know, all the ADSs shooting from below, all these things. There's so much pressure. They were winning their refrags as well, Ferox, and now have a chance to tie up the half. It is their map pick, and probably expected them to be performing a bit better. They haven't quite been as precise as I thought they would be, but yet still a chance to tie it up at the half. And I think considering with where they were at, 1-3, they would have taken that. So that would have been their best case scenario at that point.
Yeah, to be honest, looking at this this ban phase, seeing the Thatcher and the Hibana gone out of here, and just knowing Clubhouse in general, I think that a 3-3 would be pretty good for Ferox. They'd be pretty happy going into the second round thinking, okay, we just got to win 4 defenses to lock this out without overtime, or potentially just 3 defenses is enough to guarantee at least the over-T. This is Ferox's map pick, so we would expect them to be bringing something to the table to really take the fight to Sinister, especially considering map 1 was already a 7-5, and if that doesn't give you an indication of how close these teams are, well, I don't know what will. Surely Ferox can bring a better result than a 7-5 on this map, minimum forcing overtime, and hopefully even taking 1 map here against Sinister. Like we've been saying, if Ferox can win 3 out of the next 4 maps that they've got to play, so in fact, it's just 3 maps left. If they can win this, plus a 2-0 against LFO, that's a guaranteed playoff spot for Ferox.
Yeah, of course, a lot of it riding on then what happens in the series to come with Pittsburgh Knights. And if Ferox do get nothing from this, it does mean that the results will matter exponentially more tomorrow. Of course, they will have to then potentially get a 2-0 against LFO, or 1 might be enough. It all just then depends on what happens in the next series to follow. But for right now, their focus should all be on just making their way down to Church and Arsenal, which they did win in the opening round here of Clubhouse. They won it, I don't want to say convincingly, but much close to convincingly. It's best of the rounds that they've won so far. Of the 2 of them, that was their best round. As Deptra finds another opening frag, this time it's onto Moloska.
This semi-SSG roam hasn't worked out great for Sinister. They didn't go full commit on the roam, where previously Vinny just found 2 opening kills on Vigil. They went for a bit of a half and half turtle, half roam. And yes, with one of the roamers taken out, that's Milo. It's not a lot of utility lost. Of course, Milo already had placed down his Fireflyer and his ADS devices, but that said, it is a man in advantage for Ferox, and like you mentioned, Deptra's been on fire so far. Found both the first 2 picks for his team on the previous round attacking CCTV. Now Ferox in a pretty strong position. Is Warden ready to throw a grenade down and take out that shield? Because if not, Sinister do have the opportunity to get nice and aggressive on peeking towards bottom main stairs.
Have Ferox just sort of found an extra gear. They'll clear out the ADSs. That nade will make it through, try and clear out the shield. And is successful in that attempt from Warden. If they just perked up a bit. 50 seconds remaining, and as you said, they've got that man advantage against Moloska, but in terms of attack. Still not a lot of time remaining for what they still need to achieve here. Cadell's going to go through the floor, and Vincier finds a double kill for Sinister. Double kill C4, in fact. And that's just going to make it so much harder for Ferox. Thermite, exothermic charge, no. Going to just bail from that one, and while the shotgun's going to do the rest of the work for Fisher Guy. Finds two, finds a third, the drop down onto Daptra. What a way to finish the round and the half for Sinister.
Nut stuff there from Fisher. A 3-piece for him at the end of it on the back of a 2-piece just a few seconds prior from Vinny's C4. It really exploded quite quickly, didn't it there, Xenox? After we thought that Ferox had the opening there, Deptra found that first pick, and well, it looked like they were pretty well set up, getting rid of some utility, but Sinister on for the reply. They win 4-2 in their defensive half. I'm going to do a quick rehost though, so you're going to get to see our lovely faces in a moment. At the half, it's 4-2 over Sinister at the moment. I can still see this swinging back though, Xenox. Like, this is definitely not impossible for Ferox.
Potentially. I mean, I don't want to sugarcoat it and just try and sort of fake it till you make it, in a sense. It does feel like Sinister are pulling away here, and some of the momentum that they had from Villa has definitely sort of crossed over to Clubhouse. And a lot of what we were saying around that sort of map veto section was that the Clubhouse pick wasn't going to be very precise for Ferox. It wasn't like a home field advantage is going to be so detrimental to Sinister. Sinister would be proficient here. Sinister would be good here, and they're a good team. When you take their momentum that they had from Villa, the way that they've been playing all season, over the last 20 games, even if you want to, it's not a surprise to be sort of in this position. I think for Ferox, it's a tricky situation because they want to make top 4. That's their goal. They don't have to get anything from this series, all right? So they're not playing with that added edge or pressure that they've got to get something here. This is do or die. It's a must win. Like sort of Knights are about to sort of face it against Wildcard later on. This is almost like a glorified scrim. I said it at the beginning, and Ferox are failing this scrim right now on Clubhouse. That is for certain. Going into playoffs and going into these future matches, they're going to need to play better.
Well, you do play scrims to practice so that you can get better. So if this is a loss for Ferox, then I certainly hope it helps them to get better, because they'll have a really important game tomorrow night against LFO. But this one isn't quite done yet. And you talked about the momentum from Sinister following on from Villa, adding to the adding to the fact that this is quite a good map already for Sinister, despite being Ferox's pick. On top of all of that, Sinister would be the ones that they get to choose which half that they start on, attack or defense. They chose defense, arguably the favored side. So that's just another little thing that gives Sinister a bit more momentum to start off strong. Now, it wasn't a 5-1, wasn't a 6-0, so it's not like this is totally locked out from Ferox. And I do want to say it's really going to hinge on, well, how was Sinister feeling right now? I think the fact that the pressure's off really just lets them kind of spread their wings and be free and make this work. But for Ferox, if they can dodge this pressure and manage to just break a bit of this momentum from Sinister, now that they're on the defense, I can definitely see a comeback here, forcing overtime, or even there's still possibility for an exemplarily strong half from Ferox to lock this.
Yeah, look, I'm not counting Ferox out. By any means, I'm not saying that's it, they're done, because it's 2-4. I think you've just got to be fair to sort of the way that Sinister have been playing here. They've been the better team on both Villa and now even on Clubhouse. They won 3 in a row on the Clubhouse, which was Ferox's map pick. They didn't even get 3 in a row on Villa, right? So they have been playing exceptionally well. They got a lot of form going into the playoffs. Ferox have done well, in my eyes, sort of to keep with them and stay competitive. They have been very competitive. I mean, Villa was close. It was 5-5, for instance, right? Until it became 5-7. So now at 2-4 attacking, I mean, look, Clubhouse can have mixed results, whether it's attacker-sided, defender-sided. I kind of feel like it's just 50-50, right? It's just sometimes you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. Sometimes Church and Arsenal is impenetrable. Other times you do like an SSG roam, and it works or it doesn't work. There's so many different ways. My criticism would be sort of just a lack of push from construction, especially on CCTV and Cash, that we do see has been successful for a lot of other teams on Clubhouse. And Ferox just seemingly had no interest in it whatsoever. In saying that, I thought they were able to take Garage fairly well, and they were still getting Kennel's wall opened up. So as they're going to be defending now, do I think that they're going to win this round? I don't think so. I think they're going to lose, and I think it'll be 2-0 to Sinister. as we've already alluded to, it's not really going to matter too much in the grand scheme of things, is it?
Pending other results, though, that's the thing, right? Because for Ferox here, well, for Sinister here, the stakes are trying to get that second place behind either Wildcard or Kami, depending on how their match plays out. But yeah, for Sinister, it's just trying to get that second place. For them, pressure is definitely off. They're already locked in for playoffs. Worst case, 4th place or 3rd place. But for Ferox here, yeah, they can still make playoffs. If they lose here 0-2 to Sinister, then they're still fighting the battle over Knights and LFO. And Knights will be playing just later tonight against Wildcard. Now, that's bound to be a tough match for the Knights. But if they can win 1 map, or 2 maps maybe, that does put them in a really strong position, and it forces Ferox to really go hard tomorrow night against LFO. And I think LFO being in a position, Ferox being in a position going into tomorrow night where they have to win both maps in order to make playoffs, that's definitely going to affect their mental state and make it less likely that they're going to be able to lock out both maps against LFO.
Defenders, protect your bombs from being
Of course,
defused
it's
by attackers.
very intriguing that LFO right now aren't affected by this series. Even though technically they're fighting with Ferox for that final spot, they're going to be affected by the Knights series because they don't have the tiebreaker with Knights. Of course, we know Ferox have got the tiebreaker with Knights. So if it does go to that 3-way tie, Ferox do come out ahead. But for LFO, they don't have the tiebreaker against Ferox because they haven't played Ferox yet. So all that just comes down to tomorrow night. So many calculations, so many ways this season can still finish. And does this map really change much, right? If Ferox win this map here on Clubhouse and then get 2-0 tomorrow night by LFO, the map win to here would mean nothing. So when you look at it in that regards, how much does Ferox really have on the line? Now, I'm not saying they're saving strats or anything for LFO. Firstly, I don't think they need to. But are they playing at their sort of push to the limits best? Probably not. I think there's an extra gear for Ferox. They will definitely need to find it and bring it tomorrow night. But for right now, I think it's okay that they can probably say to themselves, right, we're not at our absolute best, and yet we're still kind of competing with Sinister.
I'm sorry, can I just say here that we've got a Cav? That's Warden playing the sneaky girl, roaming around this map here. She was spotted out as she rotated through Garage, so Sinister are very aware of this, and they will no doubt be talking about ensuring they can hunt this Cav down. But oh, Jeff's gonna spot it. There you go. Doesn't even take out the drone yet. Can she? I think best case scenario now, she gets back to site without dying, or potentially drags one pick with her. But I just don't see either of those things happening with Nico holding this flank.
I think the best case scenario is for Warden to make Sinister think that he's gone back to site. You don't want the Cav going back to site. This is exactly what you do. Doesn't risk it because he's expecting to push down the hatch. Well played from Warden. He gets the double onto Fisho and Nico, and Ferox have surprised Sinister. 3 versus 5, but it's not impossible. Still a minute and a half, and so they will have to flush out Warden.
Warden takes my best case scenario and just chucks it straight in the rubbish bin, finding 2 picks. Now, Caviera or not, doesn't matter what operator Warden was playing just then. That is huge. Finding 2 picks on the roam, and it's a lot of soft breach. Nico and Fisher Guy together. That's really going to slow down Sinister. Now, 1 minute left, and they're still just opening these hatches. So, that might be exactly the momentum breaker that Ferox needed on their defensive half.
Definitely agree. And even then, though, it still only goes to 3-4. They've got a lot of work cut out for them. A lot. And we've spoken about sort of replicating. That's on the wrong side. Wrong side. But we've spoken a lot about sort of replicating rounds. I'm not sure if we're going to be seeing Warden regularly playing the Cav and then that being something that's going to be a normal occurrence, right? So for Sinister, the fact that even with 30 seconds remaining, there's still a chance. Very slim one at that. But Ferox, are they going to be able to sort of capitalize from this? They're still going to capitalize on the round. Now it's a 3 versus 3. All of Warden's work has been undone. 18 seconds, flashes, impacts. That's going to flash his teammate, though. Unfortunate, but the nade was fortunate. Dirtbait fighting Todd. Sinister are going to win this round, surely. Shade's now in a 1 versus 2, and he can't get it done. Sinister still win the round. Even despite Warden's heroic efforts on the Cav in the early goings, it was 5 versus 3. It didn't affect Sinister at all.
That's nuts. I mean, how did Ferox throw that away? I mean, all credit to Sinister there. Not only did... I really want to point out, it was derp, 100% there. Not only did he find that initial pick onto the player playing at green boxes to find the nade kill on top of that, and then one more afterwards. It's just absolutely huge. And Vinny pushing up through the long hallway to find the Maestro who was in church as well. Just a huge round, and I think that's a 2-piece for Vinny and a 3-piece for Derpe to close that round. Technically a 4-piece for Derp if you count him killing Vinny right there as well.
Those are the rounds that are demoralizing, though, for a team like Ferox in that situation. You're up 5-3. We actually saw a 3v5 happen on Villa as well. I believe it was actually... I think Sinister, had they won both of the 3v5s, or was it Ferox? I can't recall for the life of me.
There was a great 3K flank from Warden on Villa. I'm not sure whether that was one of those 3v5s, but yeah, there's been a lot of really good kind of comeback moments for these teams.
It does feel like it's been favoring Sinister, though. These sort of 50-50 moments, whether it's a 3v5 or a 1v1, they were all just sort of flipping into Sinister's favor. 2-5 now, and it's suddenly looking like a blowout on Clubhouse.
Locate and defuse a bomb.
Got to be a tilter, like you said. Ferox, though, they're going to rotate bomb sites. Really, the only thing that went well for Ferox that round was the fact that Warden got 2 kills when really he shouldn't have gotten any. And, I mean, Fisher guy's just thanking the rest of his team for nullifying the fact that Fisher guy made such a huge blunder getting taken out that round. But, nonetheless, Ferox moving on here. Thermite charge to open up Garage, and now the Maverick to open up the CCTV wall. It's Derpe, gonna finish the job nice and easy. Nico's already opened the soft part of the wall, so won't have to be done later. It does expose Derpe just a little bit, but that's why you got Fisho guy on this rappel to hold down. There you go, walls opened. Really good time management here for Sinister.
Bomb located by
I
attacker.
only saw Ferox sort of open it up this quickly once, and that was with the Thermite as well. 2 minutes. There's a Deptra sitting over at rafters from what I saw for a split second. The rest, though, are definitely around the bomb sites. So for, I guess, gym and bedroom, holding rafters is a bit more aggressive compared to, say, CCTV and Cash, where it is normalized. Warden at top red as well. So a lot of pressure around this east side. Going to be watching the doors for as long as he can, but the pressure is mounting on to Deptra. How much longer does he hold? Does he hold until his final breath, or does he maybe elect to push back when he feels like time has been done and wasted? Derpe will flush him out with the impact grenade, and in the end, Deptra doesn't get too much besides just sort of wasting a bit of time of Sinister. Nico finds another kill, and Sinister running away with Clubhouse.
3v5 here. We talked about how these 3v5s don't always go the ways you think, so I wouldn't lock out the chances for an opportunity here, but okay, never mind, surely not. Vinny finds another 2. It's 1 versus 4 here. Have to be an ace clutch for Shade. And I just don't see this happening. Plants going down for Milo, no denial possibility from below. What you got for us, Shade?
I'm not sure if he's got too much for us. 2-6, and Sinister have got a potential 7-2 on their win card here, as Derpe will finish off Shade, unfortunately for him. And, well, this has not gone the way that Ferox would have liked here on their map pick.
No, it's been a struggle every step of the way here on Clubhouse, and look, I'm totally on board with you now, Xenox. I think that momentum that Sinister had established with that first map has just not been broken. And Ferox, despite, I think that could have been the momentum breaker on that first round of defense when Warden got that 2K with the Caveira. I thought that maybe could have been the opportunity for Ferox to regain some semblance of momentum here and put Sinister back onto the back foot, but that's just not happening at the moment. The Sinister look poised to close this out. If not a 7-2, then, well, something very similar. But A 6-2 lead at the moment. Flawless thus far on their attacks. Sinister just...
Defenders,
I don't
protect
think
your
there's
bomb.
any chance of coming back here.
6 of the last 7 rounds in favor of Sinister. Ferox got the opening round. If I remember correctly, I think they got the opening round on Villa as well. How little that ended up paying dividends for Ferox. They were certainly more competitive on Villa for those who've just joined us. It was 5-5 on Sinister's map pick. Ferox were sort of coming, but Sinister eventually just pulled away those last 2 rounds and forced the 7-5 victory. But on Clubhouse, it's all been one-way traffic. Unfortunately for Ferox,
10
it's
seconds remaining.
not been in their favor.
5 seconds remaining.
Well, let's see what they can pull out here on this Church and Arsenal defense. No Cav this time. Warden jumping on the Jaeger. Let's see any more success with this defense. Trying to hold on to that kitchen hatch with an electrical. A nice placement there, but I don't think it'll make a lot of difference. As we saw previously, the thermite charge from Molosca placed just next to the hatch. When it detonates, it'll still get that hatch. No electrical placed on the... Oh, wait. Is that electrical getting all 3 church walls and moto hatch? Surely it's not getting moto hatch. No, it's not getting moto hatch. All right, sorry. I got excited there for a minute.
Can I just say, though, that how quick things can change. You know, at one point it was 2-4, but that was the round that we saw Warden find the opening double kill with the Cav. You go on and win that round, and 3-4 is extremely close in comparison to 2 versus 6. Since that moment that Warden got the double kill, it has been the downhill part of a roller coaster for Ferox, and they're trying to find the exit. They're trying to find the way back up. 2 minutes remaining. Sinister make their push. Depe's going to open up his hatch, and well, I feel like the demise is now on the horizon for Ferox. 2-7 is not the way they would have been wanting to go into tomorrow night's final playday.
Good usage of the electronics detector there from Vinny.
Recovered the bomb diffuser.
Oh, here's a flashbang going all the way down from Nico through 2 floors. Todd, though, to find a C4. Milo out of the question now, and that's the thermite. Heavy, impactful player, and that C4, no doubt, onto the floor in kitchen will force Sinister to change their strategy here. And in fact, that pick and the utility that's blown out of the water with it may be what Ferox needs to get back in this.
So a drone going down oil pit towards blue. It's going to be open if Sinister want to put a player down that direction. With a minute remaining, this heavy turtle strap from Ferox definitely paying off. It does mean that Sinister also losing Molosca. Once they do push in, they're going to be at a disadvantage. So when those trades sort of ring out back and forth, Ferox are always going to be that 1 step ahead. Unless someone from Sinister can find sort of 2 kills in that exchange, or at the very least, with 40 seconds remaining, find something early on here for what is going to be their very soon-to-be eventual push.
Oh, this is dirty from Shade. As long as Sushi doesn't move too much. Shade trying to deny that Maverick trick there. Could be exactly what they need. All 3 gases now utilized, and Derpe's going to make quick use of the 20 seconds he has remaining to open up this angle onto the bomb site, but it might not be enough because the wall hasn't actually been opened. They're going to need Nico to come down and get it. Now, in the last few seconds, Sinister tries to file it in. Deptra good for 1. Fisho guy finally gets that kill. He can't get the second though, and it's cleanup crew time for Ferox, just holding on. They get 1 more round on their side of the score.
Jeez, can I just say, 10 rounds now in Clubhouse. I don't think we've seen the diffuser go down once from
No, we haven't,
either team.
actually.
It's just, yeah, we haven't. It's just been all eliminations. That was better from Ferox, but they played a very stock standard, default sort of heavy turtle setup on the basement, Church and Arsenal. Not gonna be able to sort of replicate that here on CCTV and Cash, where Sinister, you'd think, will be able to potentially finish this match off and this series off. If not, 4-6 opens up an avenue forward for Ferox, and their defense then can start to gain a bit of momentum.
But losing those first 2 defenses could really spell death for Ferox later down the line, because they'll have to make a full rotation now in order to push it to overtime. They'll have to lock out not just the Church and Arsenal room as they've done now, but cache CCTV and then move on and then get bedroom and then get one more round as well. And look, it's a tough position to try to progress from here on in, but you know, Ferox, they are a good team, and we've seen them push the best teams in this league to their limits. Wildcard on console at 8-7, Akami as well. A very close game for Ferox, and well, Sinister is a team that we put on that upper echelon alongside Ferox, alongside Akami and Wildcard. And while we may question why Ferox took us to Clubhouse, a map so strong for Sinister, we can't question that they have what it takes when it comes down to some of the tighter games that they've had this season, from the more challenging ones, to at least edge out a draw. It's not out of the question for them here to come back.
Certainly not. Wouldn't count them out. As I said, if they can get to 4 sticks, it just puts a bit of pressure onto Sinister. It would actually then be the first time that in this series, Ferox would find 2 round wins in a row. They've yet to do so. So it's either you lose the series or you finally break that streak. An unfortunate streak that they've been having here on Villa and Clubhouse. Also is going to open this up. Never mind, he's going to have to just move that one. But 2 minutes remaining, and again, Kennel's wall's going to be opened up again. I think just wants a different angle, potentially looking into CCTV. And they'll now just throw it through Fisher Guy. And what have we got? Shade in rafters. Warden over towards Jim. Again, not a lot of pressure onto construction as well from Sinister.
I wonder how long Shade will be allowed to play in rafters here. Warden is supporting. This is a difficult shot to land, but just aiming out towards Garage, the exterior side, to see if someone peeks on out. Shade needs to be careful. If he gets picked here, that completely opens the round for Sinister. But Shady should be fairly safe there. He can move quite freely without being exposed to the breach on CCTV because of both the walls between Garage and Rafters have been reinforced. But the question is, how long can Shade stay alive? And the more aggressively he peeks like this, the more likely he'll have his head taken off. But Dep trying to find the opening. A highly aggressive peek out the front finds Fisho Guy. And Ferox, I reckon this is doable for him.
I feel like Warden can actually get a run out here if he wants to as well, especially now that Ferox are getting a really big advantage in terms of kills, 5 versus 3. Could just hop through the window and find, who's it, Vinny on the balcony, or even anyone outside still there. There's Warden and Jim. He has the opportunity, that's what I'm saying, but I think now it's too little too late. And plus, Depe is just eliminated himself with the impact grenade. That's not ideal. Ferox are about to find the 2nd round win in a row, barring a catastrophe, which may just happen before our very eyes. This is now a 3 versus 2. It was a 5v2. 27 seconds remaining. Nico and Vincia, this would be so demoralizing if Ferox lose this round, Dev. Sushi, Todd, and Warden must not allow this to happen. 17 seconds up through rafters with the diffuser in hand. Will have to be very precise and quick with all of his movements. Nico's being eliminated. 3v1, diffuser in hand. Does find 1 frag over at top red. Can't find the 2nd. Round 1. Ferox do get 2 in a row. And this time, now 4 versus 6 on the scoreboard.
They broke that trend, Xenox. And look, this actually, I'm starting to believe here for Ferox, because not only did they win those 2 rounds, but they've leveled up their game. They are countering Sinister, and I want to point out in particular that opening frag, Deptra, that game sense to know exactly when to peek, and it was partly due to the way Sinister had opened that breach, only opening the left side, protected Deptra a little bit more. He goes for that wide peek after he sees that Fisho is using the lifeline to try to concuss the player at top garage. But Deptra finding that opening pick has just been really enabling the rest of his team to take advantageous positions. And once you take out the player pushing from the kennel's balcony, you don't have to worry about that angle anymore, as long as you can prevent anyone else from getting onto that rappel. And Ferox looking to potentially be on the cusp of greatness here.
Attackers need to locate and defuse bombs.
Still a long way to go. Certainly don't want to pump up their tires too much. 4-6. Sinister, of course, still got match point, and at any point they can then, of course, just end this once and for all. And maybe, though, another 7-5 is looming. And is that sort of fair for Ferox? I think as a series, 7-5, 7-5. I mean, you really can't get closer unless you go into overtime for that matter, Dev. So I think if it does end up, say, like 7-5, 7-5 against a team like Sinister, who maybe going into playoffs might be regarded as the 2nd best team, depending on where you want to sort of put them in a kami, but
5 seconds.
I don't think they'd be too upset then with tonight's performances.
Attackers are moving out to locate a
Well,
bomb
I
and
think what Ferox cares most about is making that top 4, and of course that isn't riding all on this map right here, but it would make it a heck of a lot easier if Ferox can steal some points here from Sinister. Ferox still have another game tomorrow night against LFO, and that's really where their fate will lie. But still, they can take their fate into their own hands. If they can win a map here, does help their chances.
attackers have located a bomb.
Sinister, though, they've been on match point here for 2 rounds and haven't been able to make good of it. Surely they don't let it slip all the way to overtime. They're attacking Gym and Bedroom here for the 2nd time. They won this previously quite convincingly, to be honest. There really wasn't much of a response there from Ferox, but we'll see if they can improve their game a little bit to win this one.
I'm pretty much convinced though that this round or this map, it doesn't really matter for Ferox at all though. Like not even a little bit. That just,
What do you
as you
mean?
said, well, I'm pretty sure they've just got to get the job done against LFO in some matter. You get one map against LFO, they'll have the tiebreaker. A lot more of how it plays out is the fact if it's they need this map if Knight somehow 2-0 wildcard. We won't get into it, but I think
Hey,
we're
you
both
never
very
know.
much on the money that this isn't really all that important for Ferox. Besides just wanting to play good and go into form and you still want to win at the end of the day. Turpei's going to open
he
up this
doesn't.
balcony wall and well,
That's so cheeky, I love it.
I-
Oh
yeah.
no! He
that's
gets
cheeky too.
deleted
for more-
there. Oh man.
One minute remaining in this round. Warden finds yet another opening frag. He's gotten a few of them here on Clubhouse. Not only that, but Nico's quite low as well. And this Gym Bedroom push for Sinister falling second by second. Only 45 seconds remaining. Flash out. At least they've got a couple of different angles, but they're also opened up onto that balcony. Todd finds Nico. There's a trade back at least from Moloscos. Vincier starts to push through that Kennel's wall into CCTV. They're going to come in from the east and the west. As Bisho guy, Nade, can he get it underneath that castle barricade towards... Well, that would have been actually towards Molosky. He just actually wants to blow up the barricade. 20 seconds remaining. Molosky can now push through and get this plant down. They'll have Fisher guy from the window, so decent position for the diffuser if he can get it down.
Warden is ready. He sees the head.
10
Does
seconds
pop
left.
that one and
Attackers have
trying to
recovered
get
their
peeked
team.
on here from the sledge. It looks like this might be yet another round, and with the pistol, Vinny, what are you doing, mate? Team kills central here tonight. These guys can't get enough of it. And Warden's going to be feeling robbed there that Vinny stole his kill, but I'm sure he'll be happy that his team is now on the comeback train. Choo choo, that's 3 rounds in a row, and only 1 more needed to confirm overtime.
He was pretty headfast on wanting to get that team kill as well. Wow, 5-6. 3 in a row for Ferox. We want to go one step further. It's what, 4 of the last 7. So they have had the momentum for the better half of the last, I guess you could say 5-6 rounds. But still yet that match point is looming over their heads. And at any time now, you think, as we go back down to Church and Arsenal, and while Ferox did win it last time, I wonder
Protect your bombs
if we
from
see
by
Sinister
attackers.
finally break the streak of Ferox. 3 in a row is the most that either of these two teams have won against each other tonight in this series. Ferox, to squash out that match point, at least momentarily, would need to now win 4 in a row. They're on the verge. Dev was an early believer, and he won't stop believing.
I always do. I think I like our dynamics in Ox. You're the realist, and I'm the optimist. I think it
Like
it-
bad
it-
cop,
it
good
makes-
cop.
Exactly. But hey, I don't know. There's a possibility here that Ferox could make my optimism a reality. It's just 1 map, or rather 1 round, to tie the map, and they've done this before.
Attackers must
They
locate
won Church and Arsenal in round 9.
Camera feed up and running.
It was an impactful C4 to take out the Thermite player from Todd. that really helped out Ferox here previously, but we've seen players from Ferox step up, not just impact players like that one, but we've seen Deptra really be turning up the heat here. He's been so good on these entries, found 3 of them so far this map. It's on Sinister really to close this out, not let things slip, because you've got to be thinking from their perspective. They had momentum. What was it? They won 8 out of the last 7 rounds at one point in this one. Then they come back and they've just been in a deficit. And we're looking at a 7-2 possibility. And now, well, that's slipped away. And now it's a possibility Ferox can take this map away from them.
Bomb located by attackers.
We just sort of breathe the anticipation for this potential final round, or the round that sends us to overtime. Sinister's sake, not a lot riding on this, of course. Besides the fact that I think then getting second, if they split this, I think getting second place might be proving to be more difficult. They win this though, and second place is a bit more likely. Minute 35 seconds remaining, and for what is going to be yet another heavy turtle for Ferox. No surprise that worked very well for them last time.
Todd eager to get that C4 again. It was so impactful last round, but Nico opening up this floor to expose those angles. He doesn't want to let that C4 ring true. Of course, he is vulnerable to them at the same time. It's ACOG's tough position, but Nico confident on these angles. Spots out the feet for a moment. Todd needs to be cautious here. His feet spotted out again, but Nico's waiting to line up the shot. He doesn't want to scare him off too much. He wants to wait for his head to be revealed, and there it is. Nico didn't want to go for the feet shot, and oh no, it's still not working, Nico. Oh, it's just slipping through his fingers time and time again. Todd, low on HP, and now Deptra's going to peek that. Got to be careful, Nico. He wants this so hard. He's going to get Deptra now. Todd also low on HP. 30 seconds left, though, so just to have to make progress, and the hatch isn't open.
25 seconds remaining, but I guess you could give a pass mark for Nico. He got 1 kill. He got Todd very low. We're going to see 2 kills come out in favor of Sinister. 2 versus 3. Sushi and Warden are the last 2 standing. Had to keep shooting. Just stuck below now in a 1 versus 3. Warden has been so big in this series. Needs to be yet just that little bit bigger here. Pulls out the pistol. Not much ammunition. Too much to deal with. Sinister win the round. They stop the streak. They stop Ferox. They take them out 2-0 as they win the series.
Nice little 1-tap to close it out as well. The elite set animation for Vinny, a well-deserved MVP. And wow, what a performance from Sinister to close it out. 2-0 against Ferox, solidifying themselves in the top 3 here in the 6 Masters, and possibility for top 2. They've given it their best shot. That's their final map, done and dusted for this season of 6 Masters. And whether they make first, or rather second or third place, we'll have to see. But for Ferox, look, it's not over yet. They still have 1 more match tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think we've done a really good job ourselves here, Dev, really putting that importance more so on Ferox's match tomorrow against LFO than their match tonight against Sinister. They would have liked to have won. You always want to win. But I think they can still probably be happy in the way that they were able to compete and perform. 7-5, 7-5 is not exactly a run, a stomp. It's not a run over. While it's not overtime losses like they've had in the past this season, again, it's close losses, and that's sort of been the story of Ferox this season, is against these top teams, the teams in the playoffs, these close losses have been a recurring theme. So if they are to defeat LFO and everything does go their way and they do make the playoffs, they're going to have to turn that around in the playoffs going forward, and really just sort of, I guess, for themselves as a team going forward into future tournaments, it kind of gives them something to rectify and work on.
Yeah, I want to bring it back to Sinister for a minute as well, because, for Ferox, the season's not over yet. They've got tomorrow as well against LFO, as you mentioned, which is going to be super impactful. But for Sinister here, they solidified their top 3, and these guys have been on a run, a marathon run here since Pro League Season 11. Time and time again in the Pro League, they were actually frequently sitting at that bottom spot in the league. They really struggled, but then second half of Season 11, come March, these guys come out of the gate swinging, they go flawless in their second half of the league, and then Six Masters here, they're in the top 3, potentially gunning for a top 2 spot, and they've done their best to increase their chances of that tonight with a 2-0. I think we've just got to commend how far Sinister has come, and the fact that they are now one of the greats of the Oceanic region. These guys are, without a doubt, one of the best teams, and potentially could take the entire thing come playoffs.
Yeah, I can only agree with you, really. They get to, like, what, 30 points now? As we've said, they can't get first place because tomorrow night, Kami and Wildcard will be playing. One of those two are bound to get 30 plus or more, and they've got the tiebreaker against Team Sinister either. I think they've both got the tiebreaker, so it makes it impossible then for Team Sinister to take that first spot. But regardless, look, this is now, as you said, job done for Sinister. You're into the playoffs. Wash your hands, you're done. For Ferox, doesn't really matter. They've got tomorrow night. That's where it's going to matter more. And I think the way that they played tonight means that going into